my friends in the film fandom, wherever you may be and however you may be watching. Thank you so much for giving us just a little bit of your time. I'm sorry we had to push this one back a couple of days, but we're not talking about some B-rate, low-budget, schlocky movie that we're just watching for fun. This is one of the greats. This is one of the standard setters for superhero films, so I had to have a full crew on here to talk about it tonight. We've got most everybody. Cora's doing some traveling right now. She's not with us. And Kenton has got some stuff going on as well. But we got the three prime crew members here to discuss one of the great superhero films, starting with my head of life mate, Jeremy. What's up, brother?
I'm mostly here. I definitely didn't wake up about 10 minutes ago. So
you just landed from Krypton.
It's the Phantom Zone. It's you want to talk about jet lag? I mean, that's like jet lag from hell. So, or space hell, whatever it is. I don't know. It'll do stuff to you.
But do you even feel it in the Phantom Zone, though? I mean, do you get jet lag in the Phantom Zone? 10 years, you might. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying.
Jet lag in a 6-hour flight, so it's possible.
It hits you hard when it tries to catch back up with you, and you're not ready for it. So.
And of course, the shape for Lone Star State, kneel before Tex, y'all. My man Tex, what's up, brother?
It's almost kind of fitting that we weren't able to go Tuesday because this is literally Superman's birthday. So what better day to do Superman 2 than on Superman's birthday? So happy birthday, Kal-El. So, it's
Jor-El was acting through us to make sure this happened.
Right. Jor-El foresaw this. And he purposely, no, Tex, you're going to work late that night. And everything else is not going to work. So now we get to celebrate Superman on his day of birth. So,
yes, this
pretty
is
cool.
This is very exciting, yeah.
It was just a giant head of Marlon Brando, like, there may come a day. That day may not be Tuesday.
Is it the giant head or the one that comes at you throughout the movie, which is really weird to watch, or the full body one? It just depends on which one you're looking at.
Jor-El.
Usually the floating head is the one that's putting you in the Phantom Zone, so you don't want the floating head.
No.
Right, yeah.
No.
But of course, we are here to talk about one of the standard bearers for superhero films, and that is Superman. It is the 1980 superhero film directed by Richard Lester and written by Mario Puzo and David and Leslie Newman, from a story by Puzo. It is based on the DC character Superman. It is the second installment in the Superman film series and a sequel to the 1978 film Superman. A direct continuation of the first film, Christopher Reeve reprises his role as Superman with returning cast members, including Gene Hackman, Terence Stamp, Ned Beatty, Sarah Douglas, Margot Kidder, Marc McClure, and Jack O'Halloran. The film's plot features the arrival of General Zod and his comrades on Earth, released from the prison in the Phantom Zone made by the people of Krypton. Zod seeks revenge by pursuing the planet's last son, Kal-El, alias Superman. Kal-El, who unknowingly frees them, must now face the threats of his long-dead home planet. Zod also aligns with the returning Lex Luthor, who still desires world domination. The hero is also in conflict with his duties as Earth's hero and his desire to live amongst them solely as Clark Kent, especially with his love interest, Lois Lane. The film was released in Australia and mainland Europe on December 4th of 1980, and in all other countries throughout 1981. It received positive reviews from critics who praised the performances of Reeve, Stamp, and Hackman, the visual effects, the humor. It grossed $190 million against a production budget of $54 million, a box office success, but less than its predecessor. A sequel, Superman 3, was released in June of 1983, for which Lester returned as director. On the website Rotten Tomatoes, Superman 2 has an approval rating of 83% based on 58 reviews, with an average rating of 7.4 out of 10. The site's critics' consensus reads, quote, "The humor occasionally stumbles into slapstick territory and the special effects are dated, but Superman 2 meets, if not exceeds, the standards set by its predecessor." A director's cut of the film, restoring the original vision for the film under Donner's supervision, titled Superman 2, The Richard Donner Cut, was released on November 28th of 2006. I'll go to you first, Jay. Give me some quick thoughts on Superman 2 before we roll into the spoilery stuff.
Yeah, it's still we're still in the good Superman movies with Christopher Reeve. Gotta hope we do 3 and especially 4, because you want like culture shock whiplash. I mean, You don't really, again, like we said with the first movie, you don't really mind that, like, yeah, it's a comic book movie. You don't mind that you see wires. You don't mind it being a little goofy. I mean, especially if you're gonna bomb drop on someone like Lois Lane, that, oh yeah, I'm definitely Superman. I mean, he really tried. He was kind of like, no, I'm gonna let you drown. I'm gonna kind of help you, but not really. And then, okay, I fell in the fire in this weird hotel room that we just have like talking about conversation pits. They had just like a fire pit. I mean, come on, we just not a single mark on this man. And it's like, okay, yeah, you got it. Take the glasses off, you got me. But yeah, coming back with General Zod is, that's kind of one of the iconic villains right there, along with Lex Luthor. So I mean, you got a double whammy going on. I mean, I don't know what more you could ask for.
Yeah, Tex, how about you? Give me some quick thoughts on Superman 2.
Well, I like one of the versions of this film, and the other one I kind of utterly despise. I am totally team Richard Donner cut. Richard Lester, he's like a hippie weirdo. He took way too much acid in the 60s, and he does like, I mean, it's because of him we have the meme of the red vest guy getting blown back on roller skates in the city. That's what he gave us to the Superman franchise. But yeah, this was the kind of the Justice, the Zack Snyder's Justice League of its time with the whole Joss Whedon situation. So it's just, history repeated itself later. But yeah, this is an interesting one to talk about for sure.
Yeah, when I say this is one of the standard bearers for what great comic book movies are, it really is. I mean, prior to Superman, the first Superman film coming out in the 70s, all we had really gotten was like serials, stuff that played in theaters back in the 30s and 40s. A few really corny TV things, I mean, as much as I kind of like it from a nostalgic point of view, there was a 70s Spider-Man TV series that was, looking back at it now, it's awful, but I mean, it's nostalgic. I mean, of course, you had like the 60s, Adam West Batman, but it was still very comical and it wasn't a serious take on what were sometimes serious characters in the comic books dealing with serious situations. This is the one where they got to do it a little more real world, a little more grounded. This movie a bit more gritty, a little bit. Not what we've seen in the recent DC stuff, but again, I mean, it shows this movie. The reason it's a big standard bearer is because it shows how important story and cast is to superhero movie. If you miscast the superhero, your entire movie sunk. And Christopher Reeves, to a lot of people, he is their favorite version of Superman. It's debate. That's a hot debate, but I mean,
yeah.
But I mean, you can understand why some people feel that way. This was just a movie where, and remember, this was one that was kind of, I don't want to say it was caught in developmental hell. It had some things go wrong with it. We'll talk about here in a minute. That could have sunk this movie really badly, but it ended up being a pretty good representation of the character and a good continuation of the story, despite some of the things that were going wrong with it. And let's get into the first thing I want to talk about is the change in director. Obviously, Donner had planned on filming Superman 1 and 2 back to back. He did film all of 1 and most of 2. Had some run-ins with the people who were funding it, the Salkins. He ended up leaving, and in comes why am I going to blank on the name? In comes Richard Lester. Yeah, Richard Lester. To finish filming, do a bunch of reshoots, and so I'm sure we got a very different movie. I'll go to you first, Tex. I mean, what did the drama surrounding the director? Do you think that ended up making the film good, or do you think that there's a version out there somewhere in the universe that we would have gotten from Richard Donner that would have been better? What do you think?
Well, I mean, ultimately it came down to money and control, as everything always does in Hollywood. Basically, Richard Donner wanted complete creative control, but the producers are like, well, this is our money, so go to hell. I mean, that's the short version of it. But, I mean, the losing Richard Donner really hurt this movie because, I mean, for one, I'd say the biggest effect that it had was Gene Hackman stayed loyal to Donner, and so he didn't come back for reshoots. So that's why if you see like a lot of Lex Luthor's scenes are far away and the voice sounds kind of different, it's because they had somebody basically doing an impression of him. And it's,
and they were badly obvious too.
Oh yeah, like whenever Lex falls down in the Fortress of Solitude at the end of the film, like you just see the back, like, it's not very well done. But the Richard Lester, he put too much camp and like schlocky kind of. It's like he just watched the Adam West Batman TV show and he kind of made his movie fit in that world. And I get why, because the Adam West show was so popular. But for the time period that this came out, I don't think it worked quite as well. There was a little too much comedy, too much whatever. I mean, for this review, I watched the Richard Donner cut because that's my favorite version of it. But even when you watch that movie, it's a better film, but it feels like it's like 80% complete. There's some like even test footage from where Lois shoots blanks at Clark, trying to get him to tell her he's Superman. I prefer the Donner cut, but it's choose your own adventure, I guess. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't know. Jerry, what about you? A lot of drama on the director's chair for this one. How do you think it affected the film?
Well, it's always the games of what if, it as much as I seem to be the only person of like maybe 10 people in the world that like multiverse stuff. Like we could always think like, wow, what could this have been like? Maybe in some other world where this was done by, was done proper. I mean, I don't know. It is still that weird era of trying to figure out, do we want to make this like really campy, or do we want to try and make it serious, or is it too funny? And then I'm sure we all saw the Batman movies in the 90s and we're like, wow, it could have been so much worse. When I opened up with like, this is still, you can watch 1 and 2 of these, the first 2 Superman movies and be like, yeah, this was good. The only, excuse me, the only thing I think I noticed that was kind of odd to me was the music. Because, I mean, we all know the Superman theme. That's an absolute banger of a theme. Obviously,
because they didn't use John Williams' theme.
Because I know, but I'm like, see, it's John Williams, and then I see some other fucker's name come up. I'm like, who are you? And then, like, real quickly, it just kind of very blurred. Just goes like, oh, yeah, by something by John Williams. I'm like, huh? So you didn't really use, this wasn't John Williams. And there was, like, some times where, like, I'm just listening to this theme, and I'm like, there are just some notes that just go off the fucking rails. And I'm like, did you even try with this audio if you were just going to take it right from like the John Williams score? I'm like, good God, this sounds terrible. Like, I don't know. It just kind of hurt to not, that didn't feel the same to me. Cause like when you make a movie, that is like really your other half of your whole product is like, you got the film. I mean, you got the acting, but then you got the music and the score. And then maybe you got like sound effects, special effects, And one of them's not lifting up you're the pyramid holding up the cheerleaders, and one of you's not doing your fucking job, and you're starting to fall. So, but if we can, we're not talking about Superman 4, so it could have been worse, I guess.
Yeah, we have kind of a recent precedent for this is in the DC universe, to be honest. Everything that happened surrounding the Justice League movie with Zack Snyder leaving due to some family problems he had, and Joss Whedon coming in and taking over. And you're talking about now. I know Richard Donner's director style because I've seen so many movies of his. John Lester, I can't think of a whole lot of his to compare it to. But I mean, when you got 2 different directors with 2 maybe similar but still very visions of what a movie is supposed to be, it could really impact the film. And we saw that with Justice League. That one of the problems with that film is it was very uneven. That Whedon brought a little bit of the comedic flair to what had mostly been a very dark story, a very dark universe up to that point. It was very dark, very gritty. Even the filming tones they used were all very dark. So him trying to inject a little bit of levity into it, it made the movie kind of uneven. I didn't really get that unevenness out of this movie. But then again, he actually ended up reshooting a lot of the stuff that Donner shot because there are some rules in Hollywood through the Directors Guild that you have to shoot 80% of a movie to get a director's credit. And I guess the Salkins, they had offered Donner the director's credit anyway, but he declined it. So in order to give Lester the director's credit, he had to reshoot, or 80% of the movie had to be stuff that he shot. So they ended up reshooting a lot of stuff that they otherwise probably would have used had Donner not been like, I don't want my name on this at all. So it did kind of impact what we got. I don't know. I'm sure I've seen the Donner cut. I don't remember the last time I have. I just watched the one that was on Max.
It came out in like 2005 or 2006, and they put it out on DVD when it came out.
I'm gonna have to find it somewhere because I do want to see it. But
well, the interesting thing about the Donner cut, though, what I was looking up earlier, apparently there's two versions of the Donner cut. There's one that's like an hour 51. Then there's one that's a little over 2 hours. So I don't know why Donner got two different cuts of the film. I'm assuming whoever owns the rights to it, that Warner Brothers or whatever added on to it to sell another copy or something. So there's two different Donner cuts. I don't know what Max has available, but I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Yeah, but I think it ended up working out pretty well. Why did YouTube give me an error message? But I think it ended up working out pretty well because, ultimately, I think this ended up becoming. We talked about the second Batman film just recently, about how that one ended up being a much better film than the first one, just because you got to get into the character a little more. They did it a lot differently. They weren't worried so much about selling toys, merchandising, things like that. They just really wanted to tell the story. I think they got a chance to approach the Superman character a lot differently in this movie, approach that dichotomy that he struggles with between being Clark Kent and Superman. Bruce Wayne and Batman don't really struggle with that the same way. It's really just kind of all in Bruce Wayne's head. But Superman and Clark Kent, Kal-El, as a being, has always kind of struggled with, how do I live in both these worlds? How do I be both these things? And I think they explored that a lot more than they probably would have in the end, which I think very, very well. Let's talk about that now. Good God. For one, you got Christopher Reeve, fantastic. You got Gene Hackman, he's a Hall of Famer. But Margot Kidder comes back. Obviously, she's Margot Kidder. Ned Beatty, as much as I love him, was only in the first 2 minutes of the movie. It's the same thing with Miss Tessmacher. She's not really in the movie past getting Lex out of jail. But for the little bit of talent you lost, boy, you added some absolute fucking winners in here with Terence Stamp, Sarah Douglas, and Jack O'Halloran. These really are some of the best villains ever in a superhero movie, maybe even a movie, period. Talk about guys that are even, good guy and a bad guy that are evenly matched. They offer a real legitimate threat to the good guy. This is one of the best versions of that kind of a villain. I'll go to you first, Tex. What did you think of the villains of the movie? Did it work out for you? Were they used right? What did you think of the cast of the film?
Obviously, I was going to make a joke about Ned Beatty. The reason why he wasn't in this, he had to go off for a camping trip, and unfortunately, he heard banjo music, and we know what happened after that. But it wasn't good.
Yeah.
He probably wishes he was back in prison. Once he was told to squeal, boy.
Squeal, boy.
We should totally review Deliverance one day.
God, yes.
But no, obviously Terence Stamp. I'll be honest with you, the only real reason I even like this movie is because of him. I'm not big, I love 70s movies, but 70s superhero genre wasn't quite there. I've never been a Christopher Reeve Superman guy. For me, I'm a Henry Cavill guy. I've said it for a long time. Man of Steel was the first Superman movie that I truly loved. It's because of I just like how they did that character better. But the way that they did it in this film, the Terence Stamp, he kept that. He was campy, but he wasn't Three Stooges eye poke kind of camp. The scene where Zod has the assault rifle and he's just kind of firing it off. I find it hilarious. It's a Kryptonian who can shoot laser beams out of his eyes. He's just shooting a gun for the heck of it. Why not? Just mess with everybody. But it's Terence Stamp was good. And the other thing I really liked about this, and another reason why I like the Donner cut, is because it brings back Marlon Brando. Because after the lawsuit that he had with them was settled, they allowed they were allowed to put his footage back into it, and it works so much better. Whenever it's Superman's mom, to me, it just doesn't play as well. But for those two, I got to say they're probably the best at this.
Yeah, Jay, how about you? Again, not only loaded with great talent returning from the first film, but you added on these three great villains. What do you think of the cast and who stood out the most to you?
Yeah, getting to actually see them again, because you only saw them for maybe like, I don't know, 2 minutes in the first movie. And it's
Yeah,
like,
if that. Yeah.
Like, okay, bye.
If that.
We'll see you again when some really convoluted thing happens, like, Superman just yeets a nuclear bomb into space, and I hate being this person, but I'm like, there's no sound in space, but whatever, have your explosion, and then for some reason these nuclear blast waves just go through space, and they happen to rattle their little album cover case, and they just bust out, and then they come flying back, and I'm like, okay, whatever. Yeah, I'm like, whatever, okay, they're here. Yeah, it's the irony, like it kind of just blows Superman back down to Earth, and then the three of them come upon this I guess moon landing expedition. And again, I'm a picky asshole. I'm like, why is the guy in the shuttle acting like gravity's just like normal, but the rest of them are all out there like walking through space like this? And I'm like, whatever. Campy movie, it's fun. My deep cut is I'd like to believe that Terence Stamp tried being chancellor of an entire galaxy once, and then that didn't work out because, some uppity little queen from some little planet somewhere was like, I don't believe in you. And he was like, damn it. He's like, fine, I'll go back.
Portman's fault.
Yeah, it's all Natalie Portman's fault.
Yeah.
And he's like, I'll go back to
Krypton. Those
you,
no confidence that'll get you every time. You got to watch out. It's those no confidence, man.
Yep. So I believe him back to Krypton. He tried that and that didn't work. So, but hey, he got his he got his second chance or third chance, whatever. I think it's kind of.
And after that didn't work, then he became Superman's daddy in Smallville. So he got the trifecta going. He went the whole way around.
Yeah, it all worked out. No, it's fun. It's like now you've got, you first got Lex Luthor, so it's kind of nice that it starts a little grounded. And now you've got like three whole other Kryptonians that are on the same level with Superman coming down to Earth to just wreak havoc. And yeah, it's a little campy, but like the thing I liked about all three of them was they all kind of stood out in their own way. Like, yeah, Terence Stamp is, again, it's a little comical because it's like, it's a fish out of water. Like he doesn't understand he just called like the shotgun, like it's just an overhyped boomstick or something he said. And it's just like, it's just funny that he just doesn't really care. He just keeps that like gravitas of like, yeah, I'm Zod. And you know what? I don't care about any of you, Neil, all that crap. And then of course you just had the big hulking dude who's just, there to tear shit up. And then you got, what's her name? I always forget his name, the big guy, but then I'm like, I remember her name, and then I always forget.
Jack O'Halloran played
Non?
Yeah.
Non? Yeah, and then she was
Ursula.
Ursa. Yeah.
Ursa. Yeah.
It's like you realize as it goes on, she's like collecting these little like badges and patches and crap and putting them all over her thing, like little trophies. And I'm like, that's so funny. Like as they go, she defeats the cops, takes their badge. He like sees this wildlife guy, takes his.
Funny enough,
another
Easter egg for that. What was Joker wearing at the end of Zack Snyder's Justice League on the tactical vest that he had on over the Arkham Road? Police badges of policemen that he had killed. I mean, literally the whole thing was covered in police badges. That was a Easter egg nod to this film. So
yeah,
little shout out.
But yeah, like I said, they all kind of stand out in their own way. And then, know what you do. You got three other Kryptonians that are all on the same level as Superman, and now you got like it's not enough just having one, but now you got all three of them. And I guess kind of Lex Luthor, kind of there, just playing the cards as he goes. I don't know, but. Bad guys are predictable, and you're not going to fool Superman in the end. So it's one of my favorite little gifts where he like, just salutes at him like, gotcha, buddy. Just going to leave you here for a while.
Yeah, for me, first off, bringing back Lex Luthor, I think normally I would look at today's movies and be like, that's disappointing because you have so many villains you can go to. But I mean, Gene Hackman is so good.
Yeah.
He really does he really is almost a perfect Lex Luthor. And then, of course, Ned Beatty for all 30 seconds he's in the movie. But good God, I mean, you get these three villains. For one, Terence Stamp at this point in his career was already kind of a legend. Now he's a 100% Hall of Famer. I mean, the guy's a deity. Jack O'Halloran, I thought was good. He obviously looks the part. You want to have this one big menacing guy who's the muscle. But the one who really stands out to me was Sarah Douglas. Not only is she a badass woman who can kick ass is kind of awesome anyway. Mm-hmm. That's one of the reasons why I like actresses like Michelle Rodriguez. It's like I'm pretty sure she can kick my ass in real life. That's one of the things that attracts me to her. But
and you would enjoy every minute of it.
And I would enjoy every minute of it. but
I know what kind of porn Frank likes to watch now with that guy.
Exactly. But
no, he just puts on the Fast and the Furious. He's like, fuck yeah.
I just fast forward all her scenes and hit you and I just watch. But I mean, there's something inherently attractive to the eye about a woman who can kick ass. Then, of course, she has all the powers of Superman. This is before Supergirl. So it's not like we're just looking at another version of Supergirl or Kryptonian. She's the bad guy version of it all. But another reason I like Sarah Douglas is because just a few years after this, she did a television show that is still one of my favorite shows ever that's aired on television. And I think was way ahead of its time, was way too smart for audiences, called V, about the aliens that come down to the space side. Yeah. That to me is still one of the smartest TV shows that's ever come out. It was way too smart for the audience at the time. They tried to remake it back in I think 2007 or 2008. But I don't think it
wasn't nearly as impactful.
It wasn't bad. They didn't quite handle it the right way. There's a lot of aspects that they changed around that I was watching it and I enjoyed it. It wasn't the same. But and bringing back Jane Balder was awesome because she played in the original series.
They should have brought back Robert Englund in that V revamp, but they didn't do that either.
Possibly because he was playing in the original TV series in the 80s. About the same time that he was around the same. I think that released around the same time as either the first or second Nightmare on Elm Street movie. So he was already balls deep already when all that came out.
He did V right before he did Nightmare. That's how he got recognition to go be Krueger. But it was like right before.
Yeah, but that's a fantastic TV series. She played one of the alien commanders in that as well. But I mean, but for me, I mean, it's got to be Terence Stamp. I mean, like I hold him up there with the Joker as maybe one of the great villains of all time in the comic book genre, anyway, the comic book realm. Not because he's the same, but because, I mean, I've said 100 times that I like Joker because he's just evil for the sake of evil. The best versions of him, there's no explanation as to why he is who he is. He just is. And the not knowing why he's evil kind of makes him more scary. The interesting thing about Terence Stamp in this, it's like he knows he's the bad guy. He knows he's going to come down here and enslave or kill all of mankind, and he just doesn't care. There's no should I be doing this? It's just, to him, it's just another day at the office. It's like he knows that he is just going to come down here and wreak hell, and it doesn't bother him in the least bit. It doesn't bother any of the three of them, for that matter. It's just you do it because you just feel like it's your purpose, and you're just going through the motions because that's what's supposed to be. There is none of this outside forces. He's not bad because his mom was killed in the alley by whoever. He's not bad because the superhero wronged him years earlier and he wants his revenge. He's just like, oh, I'm stronger than everybody on this planet except for Superman. I'm just going to kill Superman and slave them all. And ho-hum. And he even kind of alludes to that when they're sitting in the Oval Office towards the end of the second act. And she looks at him and goes, "You're the king of all you severity." He goes, so he kind of just like nonchalantly goes, "As I was yesterday, as I will be tomorrow." Who fucking cares? So it's like it's not evil to him. He's just like, this is what I do going around and running the show. And so he's so nonchalant and as a matter of fact about it that he's not the typical like hand-wringing bad guy who's like, I'm gonna blow up the East Coast. It's none of that cartoony shit. He's just like, I'm just bad and you fucking know it. Come get me. Come get me, Superman. You're the only one here that can even step up to me. It's like President of the United States and walk right up into his office. All these generals and stuff, whatever. Bring it on. Fire a rocket at me. I'm going to catch it and bend it and throw it away. That kind of shit. So yeah, that's what makes him a really great bad guy. Is that there's no outward thing that makes him bad. He just is. You know what I mean?
I mean, to have someone like Lex Luthor walk in there immediately, like with a white flag, like, hey, guys, hear me out, though. Trying to get into his own. He is kind of the mustache twirly like kind of villain. So he walks into the Oval Office with three of these literal basically gods, And he's like, well, but hold on, hear me out. I could help you. You know, I'm like, yeah, but they would just as soon throw you away if they didn't need you anymore. And he would just be like, all right, well, back to business, I guess. It's just so funny when everything just seems like a mild inconvenience to Terence Stamp. And he's like, huh, well, that's annoying. Anyway, it's just so fun. It's almost kind of funny, but like you're kind of, it's like that nervous laughter where you're like, oh yeah, but he could like shoot me with his laser eyes, and that's game over for you. So yeah. Even how they discover like, oh wait, we're like really strong here. Like it's not like we're on Krypton where we're just kind of normal. Like, oh, the closer we get to the sun, like, oh, all of a sudden we have superpowers. Neat. That'll come in handy. You know what I mean?
I was hoping to find a good Zod versus Zod picture, but I mean, obviously we've had different iterations of Zod. Obviously, in Man of Steel and in the DCEU, we've got different versions of Zod. I mean, both of them very, very good. So I mean, I'll ask you guys to compare. I'll start with you, Jeremy. Terence Stamp Zod versus Michael Shannon Zod. Very different approaches to characters that are just as evil. I mean, which one do you prefer and why? It's basically who wore it best.
Well, not the one from the Flash movie, that's for damn sure. I don't know what the hell he was doing there. I don't think he knew what he was doing. So maybe not that.
Yeah, that was it. We don't talk about that one. I've already voted on that.
Maybe not that Zod.
Well, don't let the fact that the DCEU did not, or that it underperformed, don't let it change the fact that Michael Shannon's one hell of an actor, and I think he did a banger job playing Zod.
But yeah, I mean, like we were saying, like like with Tech saying Man of Steel. I mean, it's a damn good movie, and like Man
of Steel is a really good movie.
I was saying like Man of Steel. I'm like, well, then the Flash happened, and Michael Shannon was just kind of there as Zod. And I'm like, what? Okay. But I mean, if we're gonna acknowledge that again, we have to keep acknowledging Quest for Peace. So it's whatever.
What's that? I haven't seen that one.
Oh, you didn't know about this? Oh, I'm doing you a favor.
No, I don't know about that.
Don't watch it. No, if you're a purist, go ahead. I don't know, like that is hard because like you're comparing two really great actors portraying this. Again, like one of those really good villains to be opposite Superman, because again, he's basically just he's also Kryptonian, but obviously kind of in a different mindset of like, I'm gonna enslave the galaxy. Whoa. I don't know. Well, I wonder if Tex is gonna talk about the whole getting his neck snapped thing. So I don't know if I would have saw Christopher Reeve going up and snapping Zod's neck in half, but
no, that would happen to Christopher Reeve a little bit later on. He wasn't in favor of neck snapping, if you know what I'm saying.
Okay.
So, I'll say it since Corner's not here. Bad touch, Tex. Bad touch.
You know what? I hope you unironically watch Superman 4. I hope you watch it.
That was low. You could not expect me to knock that softball out of the park for a home run. That was too easy. Come on. Don't give me this too soon crap, bunch of sissies.
I didn't say too soon. I said bad touch.
Yeah, that's a low hanging pinata softball.
That's a Barry Bonds out of the park, buddy. It's out of here.
Jesus. I don't know. I like Terence Stamp because I mean, it's like you said, guy's a legend. They do carry that, like I said, they carry that weight with them that you're like, oh Jesus, I wouldn't want to mess with this guy, especially if he came down here and just one track mind of like, yep, you're all kneeling before me. So I don't know. I guess I feel like if we, it's the early 80s. I don't expect it to be anything wild. I mean, there's a scene that goes on for a little too long where they're all just standing there, just blowing just everything in the city all to shit. And I'm like, okay, well, I get it. I don't know, but there is some throwing down that goes in this movie, which is for the time I was kind of impressed by that you had these 4 Kryptonians just duking it out in the middle of Metropolis. So I don't know. This one always sticks with me more than I think Man of Steel, but not that I don't appreciate it.
Yeah, I don't know. Tex, what about you? You've got 2 different Zods. You got Terence Stamp and Michael Shannon. I know, like I said, I want you to put away the fact that DCEU as a whole did not perform the way that a lot of people wanted to. Just go on performances. I think they're pretty close. Terence Stamp or Michael Shannon? Which Zod do you prefer?
Oh, it's not even close for me. It's Michael Shannon. Terence Stamp is great, but he's a very basic villain. I'm a bad guy. I'm here to take over. I mean, he just wants you to kneel before him. He has no rhyme or reason. He just wants control. What you have with the Michael Shannon Zod, from a certain viewpoint, I mean, if you look at it from, the needs of the few or the needs of the many, he's not necessarily a bad guy. I mean, his whole reasoning for coming to Earth to find Kal-El is because the entire DNA structure of Krypton is inside of him. He's a soldier trying to bring back his people. He is on a mission. Now, obviously, he's going to have to, crack some eggs to make an omelet here. But he isn't just willy-nilly kneel before me. He's a man on a purpose for his people. He was, the whole Kryptonian culture was very mission-based. It wasn't just willy-nilly do whatever you want kind of thing. And the way Michael Shannon portrays that role, right before he goes into the Phantom Zone and he screams, "I will find him," and then he gets sucked into the Phantom Zone in this, weird-looking pod. You believe Michael Shannon. He doesn't play Zod as a villain. He plays Zod as a soldier who, the only reason he revolted was because he knew the government was not taking the steps needed to save his planet and his people. He is fighting for his people. Unfortunately, the humankind just have to die to save his people, which, it's whatever. But no, it's Michael Shannon, hands down. Terence Stamp, memorable. I mean, kneel before Zod, the whole thing. Terence Stamp laid the road down, but Shannon ran over it. I mean, it's his, in my opinion. Not even close.
You're also fighting for some people that are already gone, but I mean, semantics.
Right.
But the DNA is there, so he can bring it back, right?
I guess.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's why he needed Kal-El to find him. To get that codex that was in Clark's DNA to rebuild Krypton. So he wasn't doing it for selfish means. He was doing it for his people. Terence Stamp Zod doing it for Zod. So that's why I say what I do.
I guess to tie it back to Star Wars, maybe they should have said something to Princess Leia, like, "Hold on, we could maybe get your planet back. Maybe just hear me out. We might be able to help.
We can undo that Alderaan thing,
Yeah,
we can undo that. Hey, Princess Leia can fly in space. Just have her fly back around a few times and bring back Alderaan. Yeah. It's not that hard. Superman did it.
Sure.
Yeah, that's definitely how that works. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm of the same mind of Tex. Look, the nostalgic part of me, the 80s kid in me, wants to just kind of gravitate towards Terence Stamp. And don't get me wrong, his portrayal, I think, has some big pluses over Michael Shannon's. But Michael Shannon, and I'm not trying to compare him to Thanos here, but he's like Thanos in the fact that it's been said that the best villains are the ones that you can sympathize with, the ones where you understand where they're coming from. The one thing that Michael Shannon has over Terence Stamp in their performances is that you can kind of look at his motivation and say, yeah, it's wrong to kill all the Earth and Earthlings to bring back your planet, but you are trying to bring back your people, your race. You kind of understand what he's doing. Obviously, the methods are something.
Yeah, bad execution.
but it is the same thing with Thanos. It's just like Thanos wants to be the good guy. Zod, Michael Shannon Zod, kind of wants to do what's right for his people. Maybe not be the good guy, but I mean, if you think about it, Thanos is like, he doesn't really want to sacrifice everybody, but he's like, this is the only logical way of doing it, so I'm going to have to do it this way. There's not really malice in there. There is something kind of sincere in his actions. So that's why I don't want to compare Zod directly to him, because Michael Shannon Zod does have opportunities to say, well, maybe I can do this without destroying the human race. Nah, where's that planet generator thing at? Put one over here, one on the other side of the planet, and we'll just wipe all this shit out, and we'll just make this Krypton now. So, but that's kind of where he leans into a little bit of what Terence Stamp was. He's just like, I'm bad. I know it. yes, I want to save my race, but I have no problem at all killing, billions of people on this planet to save the couple of 100 million of mine. So whatever, que sera, sera, whatever will be. I'm just going to kill everybody here. And there's not really that inner turmoil in him like there was at times with Thanos. Like there are times where you could tell like what he was trying to accomplish was having its effect on him, especially when he throws Gamora off the mountain to get the Soul Stone. It's like that's something that affected him, but he needed to push forward to complete his goal, and that was a sacrifice he made. That was the whole point. Whereas Zod was just like, I don't really care about sacrificing everybody on this planet to save mine. I just don't care. It's not there. I just want to save my own people. So he's a little more selfish, but still you kind of see where he's coming from because, who amongst us wouldn't try to save the human race if we had a possibility, you know what I mean? But so for me, I lean towards Michael Shannon. Like it's a really hard comparison between the two because they're both very good for different reasons. But I do lean towards Michael Shannon. Now, let's talk about this. Was the sequel better than the original? We talked about this when we were discussing Batman Returns the other day. The sequel, in many ways, was superior to the first film, which seems to be the most loved, the most well remembered. But was a much better film than the first one. This one, like I said, they got to approach a lot of different angles. They approached a much more personal point of view from Kal-El's point of view. Jeremy, do you think this was a better film than the first one, or do you think the first one still stands superior?
It's always hard when you got. It's not like the first one isn't, still a great movie. I don't know, man. Like, it does get a little deeper, like I said, when you add in the whole, the whole struggle of like him, it's like, oh yeah, all of a sudden this guy. Thank you for the Nixon.
Nixon does, yeah.
I need that like on a poster. I love that he did that. Like you got Lex Luthor, Nixon in the Oval Office of all damn places doing.
He should have been bald there though. That's my one hang up on Gene Hackman's Lex Luthor. We do not get enough of him bald. Lex is supposed to be
never
bald.
really do.
I don't like him with hair. I hate it. I don't like it.
I don't know. He is just kind of almost corporate sleazy, like bad guy, which whatever.
Right.
And yeah, that is kind of the first movie. It's just that Lex Luthor is just kind of cocky in his own right. That he's like, yeah, I'm the greatest super powered mind and criminal mastermind of the entire generation. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, you had the funny space rock, and that's what you kind of got your edge over Superman for. But coming to blows with like 3 other people from Krypton. Yeah, that's the thing is like you want to do with a sequel is make it bigger, make the threat bigger. It's like, yeah, if that didn't do it, hell, this now finally it kind of felt more. The world was a little bigger because you wasn't just constricted to being in Metropolis. Hell, the first thing is you're in Paris with like a terrorist attack, and of course Lois Lane's there because of course she is. And then he just zips on over there to go help out with that. And then you have like a nuclear bomb threat. I was like, wow, Jesus, we're going right off the rails, just right out of the gate. So yeah, it already kind of raised the stakes a lot more. And again, you have something you set up in the first movie that you have this guy that you're like, yeah, we'll deal with him. We'll throw him in this little album cover with his 2 buddies, and we'll just. Yeah, what's up out in space? We'll see what happens. Nothing.
That is very much an album cover right there.
I was gonna say that's your segue.
Like, name this band. Name this band.
Name this band right here. That's the Kryptonian. They're coming to a galaxy near you. So I don't know. There's a little bit more depth, and again, the world kind of seems a little more involved in this movie because it is hilarious to watch these 3 people just kind of come in to a lunar mission, and this guy's like, what's it look like? I don't know, it looks like a girl. And you're like, what are you talking about? And then these guys just basically get lassoed into space. So yeah, I think it kind of delved into a lot more, as it should, as a sequel. And again, you kind of have the cat and mouse thing of him and Lois going back and forth because she has that confidence. She's like, yeah, you know what, you're Superman. You know what, I'm so confident. I'm gonna jump over this bridge, into the water. And I'm like, well,
Yeah.
maybe, okay. Maybe you didn't have to go that far, but okay.
Very odd. I mean, for the ones who know how Margot Kidder's life ended, all of this jumping out of stuff willy nilly, it doesn't play back well. I just want to throw that in there for free. That when she just hurls herself out the window and knowing what you know now, like, oh man, we should saw the writing on the wall, maybe, but
I watch movies that disconnect from real life, and Tex keeps fucking hit me with, "Hey, did you know that he got paralyzed? Hey, did you know?" Thank you, I know that.
I'm just saying, hey,
thanks for ruining my experience with real life.
we give all perspectives and ideals on this show when it comes to movies and entertainment. I'm just, throwing the full spectrum out here, my friend. It's all good.
Man, don't.
Jeremy hates me right now. I love it. Just that face of disgust is just,
trying to work on a joke, and I'm about to sleep.
Don't be a clown about it, okay? Just don't be a clown about it.
I'm going to sleep on it a little bit, maybe. That's out of there.
Or don't be a clown, or may I ask, why so serious? If you want to go Heath Ledger, you can go that way too.
Yeah.
But
I don't know. Like I said, the sequel's always got to be bigger, got to be more. And I think it did that for sure. It's, it works.
I don't know. Tex, what do you think? Was it like Batman Returns that we think the sequel is better than the original, or does the original still hold more weight with you?
I think overall, the first Superman is a better made film because it had one director with a single vision. Obviously we know the problems that Dick Donner had with the producers and everybody else, but there wasn't the turning over of people, and you didn't have Brando, and Gene Hackman wouldn't come back. You didn't have the issues. Now, what's more, I would say Superman 2 is more memorable just for I don't think it's better, but it's more memorable for the reasons of they got into like that weird era of Superman's powers, like shooting laser beams out of the palm of your hands. This is coming from like that golden era, like that 60s and 70s era of Superman comics where he just had all the powers. Like he can just mind wipe kiss somebody. That's kind of rapey. That's kind of weird. That's an odd power to have. And just the fruit roll-ups on the chest that you can throw at people and temporarily bound them. I still need some explanation on that right there. Yeah, like how does that even happen? Like I don't know. But better film, I think the original, more memorable. Definitely this one for the controversy and just the zaniness that came from that Lester cut. I mean, he went just wild with it. It got weird, man. But there's so many things you can get into on this, but I'll stick with what I already said.
Yeah, I agree with you, Tex. I think that the first one, by and large, is the better overall film.
Yeah.
But the one thing I think that the second one has over the first one is you did get to delve more into how Clark sees the world. One of my favorite lines in all of movies is in Kill Bill Part 2, where he talks about Superman. Bill says, Batman he's Bruce Wayne who dresses up as Batman. It's like the dichotomy of the whole secret identity is that Clark Kent isn't Superman. Kal-El is Superman. Him being Clark Kent is to kind of hide himself, and it's his vision of how he sees the world as this kind of bumbling lesser species, which we kind of are. I mean, we can't fly, we can't shoot laser beams out of our eyes or our hands or our fingers, whatever the hell they were doing. We can't blow super cold breath anywhere. So he's like, it's interesting that that's how he sees humanity, with all the bumbling around and being relatively weak. That's kind of his view of that's how he thinks he's looked like that to fit into us. So that it's a different kind of take, and I love that they explored a lot of the inner turmoil of Superman. I mean, the decision to advocate his power so that he can live as a mortal. It's like I wouldn't have fucking done it. No way in hell. I'd been like, well, sorry, but we can
Superman
hang out on the weekends, but that's not going to say to people,
He gave up his power so he could get laid. I mean, come on, Superman. That's kind of mid. I mean, why are you simping out for Lois Lane when you can be a god? Come on now. The very poor decision, Clark.
Well, this was 30 years before simping became a thing, so
right.
like,
but okay,
so
retroactive.
The love story aspect of it all, I kind of get it, but it's like nowadays most people look at it and be like,
right. I mean,
nonsense.
One woman or everything. Everything includes other women in there. Just saying, but I don't know, whatever.
And it's like it wasn't even like he had to like advocate or get rid of his powers. It's just like you can date her and still be Superman. There's nothing in this world that I'm looking at in this movie anyway that says you can't do both. So it's like, but it's like he has this conversation with his mom. I'd have been like, "Hey, mom, for one, you're just a hologram. You're not even my real mom. For two, what are you going to do? Come out here and stop me? You're dead." It's like, I mean, you can't.
The best shot in this whole movie. The best shot in this whole movie is when Superman's going to give up his powers, and this is in the Donner cut. Marlon Brando's head is like real big on the ice wall in there, and you see him turn up and look and scowl at Lois Lane as he's giving up his Superman powers. It's almost like, he's like, I know he's doing this for you stupid bitch. What, God is giving up his powers to sleep with you. Worst decision ever, but it's just so great.
Well, Margot Kidder may actually have agreed with you. I'll talk about something she said in a minute. Now that we'll get to some of the trivia, Gene Hackman had said he actually did not return to do reshoots for the second film. All of his scenes were originally filmed by Richard Donner. Other scenes shot by the new director that required Hackman used a lookalike and a voice impersonator to add any lines needed. That's what I said earlier in the review. It's like there were a couple spots where it was very badly obvious, and I'm like, you couldn't even. It's like it's one thing to use the body double, but you couldn't have come in and had him come in do a little bit of ADR, a little bit of post production. Give him 10 grand, read a couple lines into a microphone. You can at least plug that in there because, like, it was off-putting. Like you talked earlier about when he's climbing down off of one of the ledges in the Fortress of Solitude. He said something that's like that. Here, part of the problem is that Gene Hackman has one of those voices that's relatively unique. It's like if I close my eyes and hear Gene Hackman say something, I have to see his face. I'm like, that's Gene Hackman. I know that voice. There's a gravelly tone, some texture in his voice. He's got a voice that kind of stands out. So when you have somebody else read even a simple line under his breath, it's like that's not Gene Hackman. That takes you out of the movie in for a half a second, and it kind of ruins things. I don't know. What were you about to say, Jay?
Well, I was thinking like,
no, I was going to agree with you.
No, I was going to say, would that kind of be the? I mean, not quite the same thing that happened with what the hell's his name? From Back to the Future, right? Where they like
Eric Schultz.
No, not Eric Schultz, the dad.
Crispin Glover.
Oh yeah,
Crispin Glover.
Yeah.
Would it be like you're having him come in, but it's like it's someone else, and it's like, yeah, that was a whole. If you know what I'm talking about, like they used him for like 2 seconds in a different movie, and he's like, well, you didn't have my permission to do that, so they have someone who's. I mean, in a later movie, and 2, they had to have someone who kind of looked like them, and they kept them upside down for most of the movie. So you're kind of like, is that Crispin Glover? I don't know. He's older. Who knows? I don't know.
Oh.
I mean, when why am I drawing a blank on so many names today? Damn. The guy who played Darth Vader, not David Prowse. It's like when David Prowse figured out, like, oh yeah, they're not using my voice, they're using James Earl Jones. So he decided, yeah, you know what? Fuck it. I don't care. Doesn't matter what I say. Doesn't matter what I do. I'm just going to fuck up everything in Empire Strikes Back because who cares? Right? I'm like, yeah, but Darth Vader's not intimidating when you have some big Welsh guy like trying to, be intimidating and force choke somebody. He's like, you're a traitor and a rebel. Take her away. I'm like, huh? You're like 6'7", dude, but you don't, it ain't matching. Okay. I don't know. I feel like that would have been a whole problem unless maybe they got him to agree to it and say like, yeah, I'll do some lines, whatever. But I don't know. I'm not sure if that would have been the case. I don't know.
Actually, Christopher Reeve actually felt like this was the best film of the entire franchise.
No.
It's better than 3 and 4.
That's Man of Steel. Now, when did he say that? I don't know when he passed. But
I think what he meant was of the films that he was in, that this was the best film.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think he meant like in total. Yeah,
because I think he passed away before
2004.
Man of Steel came out.
Yeah, 2004. He definitely.
Well, he was in. Let's see, Christopher Reeve appeared in one of the earlier seasons of Smallville as a scientist.
I was like, wasn't he in?
He played a scientist at the Smallville, like space, whatever, where they had the telescope, whatever they had called the building. But that was the last thing I think he ever did on camera. I mean, of course, he was already in the chair or whatever. But I don't know.
Let's see. During the take in which Lois Lane, I'm reading my loss. During one take of the shot in which Lois punches Ursa, Margot Kidder accidentally actually punched Sarah Douglas in the jaw and knocked her unconscious.
Oh my god! Margot Kidder's no joke.
That's one thing I will say about this for how the villains are defeated in this movie. They die like they're the stupidest stormtroopers of all time. Oh, I tripped and fell in the ice hole. Like I couldn't see that. And they all three do it just back to back to back. Well, Zod doesn't fall. He gets thrown into it. But I can understand the big stupid one falling in fine. But Ursa has brains about her. And she just falls in. And it's like, oh, so these three big bad space traveling Kryptonians can't see the gigantic holes in the ground that we don't need to step in.
But if you think about it, though, they don't realize that they've lost their powers until they try to use their powers against Superman. So it's like he goes in he pulls a switcheroo. So it's like, so she's not expecting Lois to turn around and cold cock her because she's like, I have the power of Earth's yellow sun to make me a superhuman here.
Right.
So she's not expecting that right hook from Lois is going to even affect her. So it's a big surprise to her. So she doesn't really.
Well,
she's not without her power. Same thing with the Jack O'Halloran character with Non. It's like he goes to fly and he's like, "Oh, wait a minute, what the hell is this?" And he's midair before he realizes he doesn't have the power of flight anymore, so he falls. And then Zod, of course, he at least managed to make some contact with Superman. But these people for a moment or two in the film, they don't have their powers, don't know it until it's too late. So I mean, it kind of works chronologically, but it does seem kind of silly.
Here's the bigger question, though. Everybody always said Superman's the Boy Scout. He doesn't kill people, right? He clearly kills Lex Luthor in this movie. He blows up the Fortress of Solitude. We don't see Lex leaving there, and we never see him again. Superman killed somebody. I'm just saying.
Yeah, Batman did too. So
for one, there was. I'll get some more trivia. We'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
He didn't say he was going to say
my case. For him being I'm just saying Henry Cavill gets crap for his Superman snapping Zod's neck. This Superman, the Blue Boy Scout that everybody adores, he blows up Luthor literally in cold blood in the freezing Arctic. Nobody said a word.
Different situation. His hand was kind of forced. He didn't really want to have to kill Zod.
Right. That makes my case even better. That Superman didn't want to. This one willingly knew Lex Luthor was in there and still blew him up.
That was the point, though, I think, right? Because he was trying to. It's like the whole trying to force his hand. I mean, they did that in Dark Knight. Right. They're like, yeah, someone as good as Harvey Dent could still end up being a villain. You just gotta push him far enough.
This Superman, he didn't have his hand forced. He willingly blew it up. Christopher Reeve, Superman's a murderer. That's all I'm saying.
We should have come back with the black suit.
Well, you got to remember, there was some stuff that was filmed by Donner that didn't make it into the final theatrical cut. It's probably in one of the Donner cuts. It may not have been in the one that you watched, but we'll talk about that here in a second.
If it's not on camera, I've seen both edits of this film, and neither show Lex Luthor willingly walking out under his own power or in handcuffs. So, and he never appears again. So
I have seen film of an ending where Luthor does not die. We'll talk about it in a second. I'll get there in a second. I'm on my soapbox, man. Yeah, there are actually two controversial scenes in this movie that fanboys, film geeks, and critics have complained about for years. The first is Superman's amnesia-inducing kiss, which was stupid. Fans complained this was a Deus Ex Machina type of ending and a cheat. Because of this, Superman's
There's a
skill
lot of
was
those
never
in this
mentioned.
movie.
Because of this particular skill for Superman was never mentioned in the comics. In fact, it actually appeared once or twice, but it was very obscure. The second controversial scene is one where Superman removes the strange plastic piece from his chest. We were just talking about this.
The first roll-up, yeah.
From his S insignia, which magically grows as he throws it at Non, covering him and then subduing him for a second before vanishing altogether. Fans and critics criticized the scene for being random, not taken from the comics, and also pointless, since it didn't do anything meaningful to Non. This scene was actually parodied in an episode of Family Guy in 1999. Mm-hmm. Jeremy probably
I'm sure.
Family Guy.
Mm-hmm. I do.
I'm sure it does.
I don't know. You can't have fun no more. Jesus. It's
well,
whatever.
okay. You can have fun, but you got Superman. Literally.
When does he just drop down a building and all of a sudden he just Wonder Woman's into his fucking suit? I'm like, okay, whatever.
Well,
you ever try to run around in a fucking revolving door and all of a sudden you're Superman? No, just me. Okay.
I can.
No. I'm just saying.
on the scale of zany kills, I'm more likely to buy the laser beams out of the hands like he's Iron Man. That's the most believable out of the mind-wiping kiss and the saran wrap chest. Okay, you're not Batman. You don't have a gadget belt. You don't have a bat fill in the blank. That's his territory. You don't need these things when you can.
You don't know.
When you can fly. Oh, come on, you don't need these things. This is shenanigans for shenanigans' sake. It's just I don't know. It's weird. I'm so glad that the Donner cut does not have those things. But
this is that same argument that like, well, Superman's basically a god. Like, yeah, no shit. Like, and that's why it's boring, and that's why Batman's better. Fight me.
That's why Superman doesn't make for a good video game. You have to depower him from the beginning, or you gotta win. You
gotta have something to. Yeah. I don't know. We saw Pattinson. I mean, he can pull his little insignia off his chest and throw it, and nobody bats an eye. Okay.
Yeah, but that actually makes sense. That makes sense.
That was cool.
He has no powers.
That was cool.
That's one. I will give them that version of Batman credit for. I mean, some versions of Batman, the logo is to distract, but that version used it as a weapon. That was inventive that I've never seen done in Batman before. I like that. I do like
also, I don't want none of y'all complaining that Superman he had a suit to fight Superman when all of y'all just never batted an eye when fucking Tony Stark did it to fight the Hulk.
No, they're going to say Dark Knight Returns, greatest comic book ever. Fight me. I don't care.
Oh, the
greatest story ever told.
Yeah, here's a name that I'm sure Tex will remember. One of the people considered for the role of Non was none other than Randall Tex Cobb.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
I did not know that.
I have always been a big fan of Randall Tex Cobb. Really big in the 70s and 80s. Former boxer turned actor. I think he played football as well. But he's been in so many great movies from the late 70s and the early 80s. He was in Uncommon Valor with Gene Hackman. A fantastic movie where Gene Hackman goes back into Vietnam to get his son. Kind of like Missing in Action, but Gene Hackman puts together a bunch of mercenary ex-army guys to go back in to get his son from the Vietnamese POW camp, and Randall Tex Cobb is one of the guys he goes to work with. A very young Patrick Swayze, who was this was pre-Dirty Dancing, probably about the time that Red Dawn came out, somewhere in that range, maybe a year or so after. It's called Uncommon Valor.
83. So, yeah, 84 was Red Dawn, I think, right? Yeah. So
right about the time that Red Dawn was coming out. Yeah, a really young Patrick Swayze. That's actually it's a great emotional kind of war movie. It's really, really good movie. You can probably find it a lot of different places.
And tell my mom that, man. She's a sucker for Patrick Swayze. I mean, you can't.
I'm a sucker for Patrick Swayze.
That's to be fair.
Hey, here's a movie I know you've seen, Tex. Next of Kin.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Love that fucking movie.
That's a good one.
That was. Dude, loaded with talent. They got Patrick Swayze, Bill Paxton, Liam Neeson, Ben Stiller.
I can't remember the last time I saw that movie. God, that's been forever.
So many great actors.
Forever since I've seen that thing. That's a good one.
You know, on the music note, I'll give you guys a nice, pretty picture of Niagara Falls while I talk about this one. On the music note, John Williams did not return as composer due to scheduling commitments with a small film that he was involved with called Star Wars Episode 5, The Empire Strikes Back, and Raiders of the Lost Ark come out the next year.
However,
I bet nobody even liked that movie. Well, who's ever heard of that movie?
Who's ever heard of those movies?
Come on.
However, Williams did grant the Salkins permission to use his original theme and even recommended composer Ken Thorne, who was a personal friend of Williams, to compose the film score. So his fingerprints are still all over it.
Yeah, but it's not the John Williams. I mean, it's not. I mean, even whenever Zack Snyder made Man of Steel, before he got Hans Zimmer to compose a new theme, he wanted to use the John Williams Superman theme, but it just contractually didn't work out. So there's a reason why his stands above all when it comes to Superman.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think Raiders was the same year as this movie. It was 81, right? So.
This movie, I've seen a couple different release dates of this movie because it released in December of 1980 in Europe and Australia, but it released in 81 in a whole bunch of other territories. So it's listed some places as being 1980 and other places being 1981. But
but it still stands. Yeah, Empire Strikes Back came out in 1980, and then Raiders was 81. So yeah, I think John Williams was a little bit busy at the time.
Yeah, he had his composing hands full. He had his hands full.
Yeah.
Anybody better than John Williams? I mean, like the top 5 or 10 theme songs in the movie.
I think it's 3 names: John Williams, Randy Newman, and Hans Zimmer. I think that's the 3 best composers of all time.
I can't knock any of those names, but I mean, John Williams he's like up here. Everybody else is playing for second.
Me personally, I prefer Zimmer over all of them, but I think that's your top 3 out of any film soundtrack ever. I think that's going to be one of those 3 names.
Yeah, I definitely don't sit there and just listen to music scores from movies and shit because I wasn't a band nerd. Some of them are they hit sometimes. Tanya,
I'm not a band nerd. Normally, I used to like movie soundtracks back in the 80s and in the 90s when they actually when they put good soundtracks together. Scores I've never really been a big fan of.
I love Williams.
Scores. Like I said, you think about the top 8 or 10 movie theme songs.
It's probably themes,
him. And it's John Williams. John Williams wrote the top 10. He wrote 9 of them. He did 9 of them.
If you want to have a cool experience, read a Batman comic book while you're listening to a Batman score soundtrack with your earbuds on. It completely changes how you perceive, because as you're listening to whatever soundtrack it is, I hear my favorite I'll hear Kevin Conroy Batman voice when I'm reading a Batman line.
Yeah.
Right, because it's his voice. And then it makes it even better when I've got the actual score going in my head. It just elevates the whole experience. It's pretty.
That's what I was saying. I'm like, that's something that that's the big heavy lifter of your movie is also the score, because you can see what's going on, but then you got that just kind of in the background. You just hear it, and it invokes another. You can have emotions being portrayed, but it gives you that little bit of push that makes you feel a certain way when you're hearing the score going on behind what's being shown on film. You can change it, and it gives you a whole different feeling. It's wild. Subconsciously, you don't realize what's going on.
I also don't, in October time, drive around just random neighborhoods listening to the Halloween theme playing in my truck while I'm driving around.
I mean,
totally don't do that.
I've never done that mask before. On. He's
I swear to God, I swear to God, I've never done that one either. But it is.
He's the guy that goes. He's the one who goes to the drive-thru and has the Michael Myers mask on, just looks at him in the window.
Can I get some extra ketchup for my fries? We're like, yes, okay. Let's see. I don't know if you guys realize this or not, but this is the only one of the first 4 Superman movies, the Christopher Reeve movies, that did not have any scenes shot in Smallville.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
I think it works, though, because you didn't need to go back to it. You don't have to reestablish anything about this character. I think it makes sense not to go back to Smallville. You know what I mean?
Like I said, they didn't even just stay in Metropolis for the entire time. I mean, they kind of went all over the place, which was nice. It's that fun, now he's at Niagara Falls. Why? Why not? He's there.
Well, it's just like Jeremy said, this one opened the world up. we've been to Smallville, Kansas. Now we're going to go global. So, I mean, it literally elevated it. It did what it was supposed to do, like you said earlier.
Go big.
And it's not like they didn't go spend a lot of time in Smallville in the third one. So
I really hope we don't do that one. That one sucks. I hate that movie.
I think the third one's not as good as the first two, but I still think it's a fun movie. The fourth one,
no. If the third one,
look, if we do 3 and 4, I'm like, come on, can we please do Batman Forever and Batman and Robin?
If we're gonna do the dumb stuff, problems with 3 start in this one because Richard Lester, he took everything he did in this film and multiplied it by 1,000 in a negative way to make Superman 3. The only reason they put Richard Pryor in that movie was because he talked good about it one time. That's the reason why he got that job. So
well, he was tremendously popular back in the 80s.
Like, Richard Pryor.
Right, well, of course, yeah.
He was already a comic stand-up legend, so I mean,
right.
And he was making plenty of his own at the time. So not to mention he's fresh off the things, all the stuff he did with Gene Wilder and stuff like that. So he was a pretty bankable star. Let's see. This movie was actually, at the time of its release, was the most expensive movie ever made.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah. Boy, how times have changed.
Well, I mean,
I was going to say, look at some of the budgets for these Marvel movies that they have to reshoot 2 or 3 times, like the Daredevil or the Thunderbolts or the new Captain America that they've done for 3 times. How many hundreds of millions of dollars went into that Captain Marvel 2 that made no money? It's
I'm also
Madame Web. Ridiculous.
This is also 1980s money, so I don't know if it's but I mean, what'd you say, Frank? It was like a 50 million
50 not what did it cost? It made, let me go back at my notes.
It was 150.
It made 190 million against a production budget of 54 million.
You're right. So I mean, that's a success. So
this one made 159. The first one made like 200 or 300 million. I want to say the original Superman.
I don't know. Hold on.
It was way more than what this one made then. I want to say it was 3, somewhere in the 300 millions.
Was that 78? Hold on.
Yeah, Superman 78. I want to say 300.
Well, I typed the word box. I didn't even bother typing the word office. Jesus.
Well, box office is not the same as budget.
No. Well, no, I'm trying to find that, but then also what your
what did it say?
Oh wow. Okay, so budget is 55 million for the 78, and the box office was 300 and a half million. So yeah.
Okay, I knew it was a lot more than 150. Yeah. Wow, it made double than this one. Holy crap. That's crazy.
We're just about the same budget too, like 55 million against 300 million. So yeah, again definitely a success.
Damn. Okay.
God, it's not even on the list now. It's not even in the top 60.
No.
That's nothing.
Hold on. Okay, here's
now they make a movie for 300 million. Like
most expensive films adjusted for inflation. I hate the whole inflation angle, but whatever. Let's see. Star Wars: The Force Awakens adjusted for inflation cost 552 million. They still made their money. Let's see.
That one.
Pirates of the Caribbean on Stranger Tides. I'm trying to find it on.
I figured like Avengers Endgame or Infinity War, or I'd say Endgame would be the most expensive ever made. Didn't that cost them a couple billion to make? It made a couple billion.
Believe it or not, Age of Ultron is actually the most expensive Marvel movie ever made.
Really?
Yes.
Well, I mean,
they spent a boatload of money on that movie. It cost 365 million. Adjusted for inflation is 451 million. The next one is Endgame, which cost 356 million, adjusted for 407 million. And then, of course, there's a bunch of Marvel movies after that.
I mean, the whole reason why I said Endgame was because you had to pay all of those actors for 10 years of Marvel movies to appear in that movie. Just the budget alone for cast is astronomical.
Okay, I found it on here. Why does it say NA? That's weird. Where it says rank, it says NA. I don't know why it doesn't
matter.
Last couple. It's down at the bottom. It's 78. It said this is Superman 1, not 2. It said that it cost 55 million.
Yep.
At its time, and adjusted for inflation, it was somewhere between 245 and 249 million, which puts it right in range with an average Marvel movie.
Like I said, $300 million for a box office of 1978. I'm like, yeah, but you'd make a movie like that now for that money. So
Right. Yeah.
you got to be breaking $1 billion now just to do that. So that's a different podcast for a different day. I'm like, I know we could talk about like, goddamn, it's like it just takes more and more and more. So that means you got to make more and more and more, and then eventually you're going to hit a point where you can't do that.
Yeah,
But
the inflation cost you if you're not making over $1 billion, you're not a success anymore. It costs way too much to make these movies.
The problem is, you got to bank on at least making $1 billion, and it's like,
yeah,
I don't know if that's really a thing you want to try and take a risk on. Like we said, horror movies you can make for fucking $10 and make $1 million. That's what I mean,
right? Well,
on this list of
most of those have like 1 star, if any, names that you know. You have to have names for these kind of movies. It's a different standard. So.
Of this list of about, I want to call it about 80 movies, almost all of them were 2000s or newer. Superman 78 is on here. Armageddon 98 is on here.
Okay.
Most expensive movies ever made adjusted for inflation. Then I have to scroll up quite a bit to get the one that was made in the 90s. Where am I even at now? 1963 Cleopatra was made for $31 million.
I was going to say,
adjusted for inflation was almost $300 million today. Funny.
I was like, wasn't Cleopatra stupid expensive too at that time?
Wild West from '99 cost $299 million in today's dollars. Waterworld. Cost $172 million at the time of its release. $330
Kent, what are you doing?
How much of that money was spent on the piss to drink and water scene? How many millions did they spend on that one shot alone?
They should have spent that much. They've had that text going on since the space program. And then, of course,
that's what I'm saying.
Still very near the top of the list. In the top 10 at number 9 is Titanic from 1997. It cost $200 million when it came out. Adjusted for inflation, is $365 million.
Okay. I'm surprised the Avatar movies don't cost as much to make either, considering the amount of technology that goes into those Avatar films.
Yeah,
I mean, they literally had to create technology to do Avatar. They couldn't have done that 20 years ago.
The first Avatar cost $237 million when it came out. Adjusted for inflation, is $323. Avatar: The Way of Water, the sequel, is $350 million because it's so new. There is no inflation adjustment for that. $350 million.
Yeah.
Which is still kind of a stupid amount, but whatever.
But you created this whole world though. I mean, I'll give you that. Visually, it was very cool.
Oh yeah.
I think about 2 hours into the 15-hour movie, though, I was like, oh fuck, this is Pocahontas in space, and I don't care.
It's literally Ferngully / Pocahontas in space.
It is.
It's insane.
And I like Pocahontas. I like Ferngully, but I was like, this somehow isn't doing it for me. I don't know.
I didn't go to see Avatar so I could see Pocahontas and Ferngully.
I didn't know. See, here's the thing. I was in high school. I went to go out to the movies. I didn't know what it was about. I'm not gonna be like, hey, you darn kid, you had the internet, you already knew what the movie's about. I'm like, I did, but not enough to know. I was just like, what's this goofy little movie about with these blue people? And then I was like, okay, well, I've seen this movie before. The two that are
I've yet to see Avatar 2. I will not see Avatar 3. Avatar 1, I didn't see till it came out on DVD, and I watched it at home. And I fell asleep twice in the first sitting of watching that movie because I got tired of getting preached at about we're going to save the environment. All right, you must.
Well, Tex, you may not. Whatever. None of us may be alive when the third movie comes out.
Listen, my great grandkids will get to see Avatar 4. It'll be fine. I'm sure they'll love it.
So. 2 might still be in theaters at that fucking point because he's a dick like that.
I am a notorious Avatar hater. I think that movie's way overblown for what it was. Was it a good movie? Sure, it was a good movie. It wasn't the end all be all. The second movie to me is actually very good. It's much better.
I don't know. Like I said, I like world building. I like this world of Pandora. I'm like, it's very cool. It's unique, but I'm just what the fuck? I don't really care about
the second movie. It's much more of a war movie. It wasn't so in your face with the environmental shit. Like I said, you don't have to establish a whole lot. So you kind of jump right into it. It's still a little long in the tooth for me, but it's wall to wall story and not a lot of setup. And it's much more. There's a couple of scenes in the movie that are straight out of fucking Apocalypse Now. I mean, straight out of Apocalypse Now.
Well, that's where I
just hate James Cameron. I cannot stand him jacking himself off to his environmental bullshit that he gets off to.
It wasn't nearly as heavy in the second movie as it was in the first
stand. I miss when James Cameron was making cool Terminator movies, not preaching to us why white people are bad.
I would say give Avatar: The Way of Water a shot. Like I said, it works much more as a war movie than it does anything else.
I also just
it takes place on Pandora instead of Laos and Vietnam. It's actually much better. I really like the film. I'm not gonna lie.
I can't stand the like, hey, I left it in theaters for like 5 years. Of course, I made a lot of money. Like,
of course, I made a lot of money.
Of course, you did. You asshole.
Any movie could be number one if you never take it out of the theater.
And it's not funny when you win a race against your fucking self when you beat out Titanic. I'm like, that was your own movie. What?
I don't even care about that. My problem is the re-releases. You release it, you re-release it, you re-release it again. I'm like, nah, because
you're also talking to
that doesn't work for every movie. But I'm like, still, come on, dude. It's like you were in theaters for like 18 months, for a calendar year and more, and then you re-release it a couple times. You release it again before the second one came out. Got some juice from that. I'm like, your initial run should be your box office totals. I don't mind if you re-release it. Your box office totals.
You're also talking
you can't lose the Super Bowl and then say, oh, well, we're just going to go back to the Super Bowl, play 5 more minutes, and win that game. That's not how it works. That's cheating. That's against the rules. That doesn't work. I'm sorry. You lost.
You're voted off the island. Get out.
Yeah, get out.
Right, you're voted off the island.
To be fair,
you don't live here anymore.
You are talking to a gamer. I'm like, I definitely haven't bought every single version of The Last of Us on every single console it's ever come out for, and Skyrim. But I mean, yeah, it's the same game, but it's better. Damn it! I don't know.
Hey, I have bought Halloween and Texas Chainsaw, all of them, on every video platform that's ever came out. I have multiples of the same movie. I completely understand.
To be fair, I did finally find like a 40th anniversary version of Texas Chainsaw. I'm like, well, I don't have that. I've got like a. I've got like a third. I think the one I have is like maybe the 30th. I have a 40, and I'm like, oh, this year I'm definitely getting a 50th. They're gonna do it. I'm gonna buy it because I'm done.
They know we're suckers. They take the same movie, put a couple little cheap throw-ins. Oh, here's a poster. Here's a free doodad for the same thing that we made in '74. But we know you idiots are going to buy it again, so give us your money. So,
here's your copy of the movie, and here's your copy of the chainsaw. Oh, sweet.
Let's go.
That's all they're doing. It's fine.
I know Tex was watching really, really closely the scene where Superman and Lois Lane finally hook it up. But in an interview many years after the film came out, Margot Kidder said that she had come to agree with the Prudes that Lois Lane should not have gone to bed with Superman.
Oh,
what if you had the chance? Come on.
The scene where she comes out in that towel, you can't tell me y'all are like visually using your non-existent mind powers to make that towel fall.
Superman's got X-ray vision, man.
But hey, there's this little superpower that we now have called Google. If you really need to see Margot Kidder naked, the pictures do exist. I'm just throwing that out there for free. So
thanks, AI.
Do with it what you will, my friend.
I would not disrespect
it's not
the memory of Margot Kidder.
Right. We're not going to do Margot Kidder like that. Come on.
I'm just saying,
Hey,
Margot Kidder back in the day.
She was fantastic in the Amityville movie.
I said she
fucking awesome with her and James Brolin.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought that scene was just not needed. It's like,
well, it's needed when Superman gave up his powers for it. You need that.
I don't even think you need that. It's like you would have gotten the same effect if you'd have shown one of them one of them sitting at the breakfast table and one of them walking out in the bathroom the next day. You know what happens.
You get it. Yeah.
But this is one of the things that happened. Look, as much as I love to brag about the 80s over every other decade when it comes to film and entertainment, the one thing that they really badly overdid the 80s was sex scenes. It's like they were it's like a lot of, they were tastefully done for the most part, but they weren't necessary all the time. It's like, because I was watching Top Gun a couple weeks ago, and the whole silhouetted love scene with Tom Cruise and Kelly McGillis, I remember watching that and I was just kind of like, it's one thing to have this silhouetted thing last about 15 or 20 seconds, but it was like 5 minutes in the movie. And I'm like, do we need this? How is this moving the film along, the story along? It's like, we get it. They found a relationship, they hooked up. I get it. Do I need to see this come to fruition for a solid like 4 to 5 minutes on screen?
Fruition?
it's not really necessary, and it slows down the pace of the movie. And that's something the 80s was really, really bad at, was like the gratuitous sex scene.
Well, then you have to criticize every car commercial for putting a sexy lady on the hood, or anytime a fast food company.
A sexy woman is not the same as a sex scene. Those are two totally different things.
Do you not think of sex when you see a sexy woman? It's in the
I think
first
of a
word
sexy
of
woman when I see sex. I do not think of a sexy woman when I'm watching a silhouette of Tom Cruise banging out.
When you think, when you see a sexy woman, do you
sorry,
think,
BJ.
I'm like,
my mom's here.
I'm
God,
sorry. I'm sorry.
I didn't even
Judge's
say
mama.
it
We're
either.
having this discussion in
I
front of
didn't even say it.
you know my.
I don't know.
My apologies, but I'm just saying, sex sells. There's a reason.
Yeah.
Hot women don't actually eat Big Macs, even though you see the commercial. There's a smoking hot 12 holding one when she's never had more than a piece of lettuce in the last week. Okay, there's a reason why they do this.
Yeah.
Well, because sexuality and the act of sex are two different things. So it's like having the girl in a bikini.
I think you're splitting hairs on that.
Makeup done, sitting on the hood of a Trans Am trying to sell the car is one thing. That's sexuality. But like the act of sex is a different thing to me.
I think I know what you're saying. Like actually doing the thing and not just being attractive to be attracted to sell a product or something. It's like, yeah. Well, you're also talking to somebody who sat through the entire movie of The Room, and I'm like, my God, how many times am I going to watch you have sex, Tommy? Please stop.
That was awful.
But it's so good. Oh,
well, I guess we just learned that Frank is
oh my God. Oh, hold on. Can we please review The Room and then like double feature it with the Disaster Artist?
100% no. I'll do Disaster Artist. I wouldn't mind doing that movie.
Then what's the point?
Okay. Because the story surrounding that movie is way better than the movie itself. Because I've seen The Room, and it's one of those movies.
I own The Room. Are you kidding me?
It's one of those movies to me that like people who want to pretend that they know more about artistic filmmaking that don't really know more about artistic filmmaking hold that movie up. Like, I'm smarter than everybody else who thinks this movie sucks. It's like, no, that movie sometimes the movie sucks.
I know the movie sucks. No, I'm not saying I'm above anybody. I'm just like, it's not high art at all. It's just dumb shit. I'm one
of those people, and I know I annoy you guys with it sometimes. I try to find something good in every movie that I watch so that I can be fair about it. But if there are some movies that I've seen, I'm like, I can't pick one piece of shit out of this pepper that is at all entertaining, that makes this movie worth it, that made me not want to ask for my money back. And The Room is one of those movies. I'm like, there is nothing creative about this. This was Tommy Wiseau, who somebody gave this guy just enough money to make a film. It's like, dude, there's a reason why they made The Disaster Artist, because he was so bad at filmmaking that the whole point of The Disaster Artist is him being bad at filmmaking, not the behind the scenes story of the movie. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah,
I'll say this.
Naturally, there's going to be a whole thing around this because you kind of had that curiosity of like, so who is this guy? How did he get this money? Why is this happening? What?
That's more interesting than the movie.
I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah, I guess you could thank Greg Sestero for that then, because he was kind of just like, I don't know, man, this dude's a weirdo, but we made a movie, I guess, and it became a whole thing. So
I
don't know.
It's kind of funny that another Superman actor recently was talking about this, in Henry Cavill, and he was talking about how he feels the sex scenes in films are maybe not needed as much, but the argument that I would put out is, do you have, sex sells, violence sells. So if you feel the sex scene isn't needed, is the overly gruesome, gore-filled scene needed as well? Does that further the plot? Or when Leatherface is butchering a bus full of yuppies in that little tour van that they're in, does that further the plot, or is that a moment of enjoyment?
That's inherently, you're going to have people getting hacked apart.
That's what I'm saying. That's not a great comparison, because you go see a movie like Texas Chainsaw Massacre knowing that 80% of that movie is going to be somebody getting robbed.
Someone's dying.
Well,
you can't say that you're making a horror movie, or at least a slasher style horror movie, if there's not a gratuitous amount of blood. It's understandable to see that. But when I go to see a movie, if it's a boy meets girl movie, if it's a relationship drama, a rom-com, does there have to be a gratuitous sex scene? No, because that's established more through dialogue and situation than it is by these two people jumping into bed.
Then again, in those 2000 horror movies, they're like, well, someone's got to have sex. I'm like, well, you know what happens? You die.
Well, and on top of
the other two examples,
it's getting harder and harder to get women to even do actresses to even do sex scenes anymore. Because now they're just
the other two examples that I would put out is the I Spit on Your Grave franchise, which is literally a rape revenge franchise.
Yeah.
Literally, the whole basis is set around girl gets in bad situation, gets taken advantage of, she lives, goes through it. The other example I would say is Rob Zombie's Halloween from 2007. The rape scene in Smith's Grove Sanitarium in the theatrical cut was cut out, but it makes it an incomplete film because the whole reason Michael was able to escape is because the shitty prison guard drags a girl into Michael's room, rapes her. You actually get to see it. He kills the security guards, and that's how he escapes. Now, that is a sex scene that serves the plot that they cut out of it, though it was released on the director's unrated cut. So, I mean, you can go either way with stuff like that.
I still think those are not adequate comparisons, because when you're talking about a horror movie, you're going to that movie to see grotesque killers.
I'm not saying that Halloween is equivalent to Superman. I'm just throwing examples out here.
The basis of I Spit on Your Grave is inherently that's the whole.
And be careful with the R word, please. That's one of the ones that YouTube doesn't.
I was sitting there like, oh god, we're gonna get taken out right
I didn't know if that was on no list or not.
Oh, it's definitely not. We're not allowed to say that. Trust me.
Okay.
The only thing, I mean, just as a side note, I noticed about the two movies, the remake and the old I Spit on Your Grave, is I'm like, the old one, I'm like, I get it. It was like the 70s, I think, and I'm like, okay, this is an hour and a half, but I feel like I watched an hour and a half of this going on. I'm like, I get it. I don't need to see every single guy come at her to have like 5 minutes of her killing them. I was like, no, the new movie is like, yeah, you know what happened. You get the idea. I don't need to see it for 10 minutes straight and just, you know. And then I'm like, I get it. She passes out and then she comes back and she kills them all. And it's glorious. But like, I don't know.
I would argue, though, I mean, just for the purposes of Superman 2, the whole reason Superman gave up his powers was to be with Lois. And for us not to physically see it in some shape, form, or fashion, it wouldn't feel as complete to me. I think you start the circle. I mean,
the scene in the diner.
But
he gets his ass for Lois. I think for Superman. Now, if we're talking about two human characters, I might just kind of throw my hands up and be like, whatever. But the sacrifice that Superman made to be with her, I think, is more clearly exemplified in the scene in the diner where he gets his ass beat by that guy.
Yeah,
I think that's a much more. I think that's a much more important scene for that sacrifice that he made,
because he doesn't realize. Oh yeah, I'm mortal now.
As opposed to jumping in bed with her and being like, "Hey, whatever." Also, let's be actually honest. Did every guy make this face after the first time? Did I suck at it? Was I good at it? How do I ask her? I'm so nervous right now. What did I just do?
She didn't look like Margot Kidder, so I don't know. To be
fair, I was gonna say, I think the only time you make that face is if you're you come up a little bit short, if you know what I'm saying. You know, maybe you launched too soon. You know. Hey, but it was his first time. We can all go back to our first times when we weren't exactly Casanova yet. So
I don't. I'd like to forget.
It was that's one of the reasons I grabbed that picture, because I was like looking at it and I was like, that's funnier than shit. I'm gonna make this joke in the stream. That's like, that was Clark's first time and he's got that funny look on his face. I want to make this joke.
Yeah,
that face is, either he came up too early or his arm has been asleep for like 3 hours and she won't move. So he's like, I can't move and get her off of me because she'll never do this again. It's one of those two things. I don't know. But
yeah,
Rachel came in at just the right time.
I know. I was like,
I was like, well, what face did you make after the first time? Was it this face or was it this face?
Right.
Oh my god damn.
Because that face, I'm like,
okay.
Well, that's with a little more confidence. That's not the first time, all right? Ain't my first rodeo.
There was think of all the product placement. I mean, Coca-Cola, Marlboro's in this movie. How did they not?
My mom is still here. Jesus Christ, guys!
How did they not have the Marlboro product placement having a smoke after they met one another? You know what I'm saying?
And all the Coca-Cola signs too, man. Yeah.
Yeah, they went hardcore with the
I
product.
was like, it's funny that like I mean, didn't Zod or somebody get like thrown into a Coca-Cola sign? And I'm like, didn't we just make fun of Madam Web for all the Pepsi shit? And I'm like, we kind of did already do this. So to be fair, why are we shitting on that? I don't know.
Product placement today is done a lot differently than it was back in the 70s.
Oh,
80s.
yeah.
I mean, it was gratuitous and stupid back then. It was like, Jeremy likes to make that joke about Wayne's World. He's like, I will not bow to corporate sponsors when he holds up the Doritos bag. The 70s, it was really like that in the 70s, and really for a large part of the 80s. It was just like, you can't do anything without a corporate thing in the background, a McDonald's or a Coke or a Pepsi or whatever.
Wasn't that in like the first movie? Like, I think when his mom looks out in the out of the window of the farmhouse, like, was it a Wheaties box or something? Like it's facing the camera, and then when it turns around and she's at the front window, all of a sudden it whiplashes this way to like face the camera again. I'm like, fuck you. It's like like it's all I'm seeing is this damn box of cereal, and then her. I'm like, it's obvious when the thing turns around and just looks at the camera, like,
What Superman 1 and 2 do though, as far as product placement goes, they set up Man of Steel perfectly. You can't go watch that movie, watch Man of Steel without wanting to go to IHOP or go to Sears and buy a lawnmower. They are all, and 7-Eleven, all over that movie. It is crazy how much
anymore and buy a lawnmower, damn it.
Right. Yeah, that's just one of those things. So.
Not anymore. Yeah.
Okay, so here's one that I'm sure this is the last piece of trivia that I got, but this is gonna spur some talk. Now we've already talked about Superman killing people. In July of 2021, Jack O'Halloran, who played Non, revealed that Superman actually did not kill Ursa, Zod, and Non at the end. He told Yahoo Entertainment that director Richard Donner filmed an extra scene that confirmed all three villains survived and were carted off to a terrestrial prison on Earth instead of the Phantom Zone. But that scene was cut from the theatrical version, which was completed by Richard Lester after Donner departed under acrimonious circumstances, as well as Superman 2, the Donner cut from 1980. And the 2006 version of Superman 2 that was reconstituted his original vision. He also added that he regrets that some viewers have spent 40 years believing that Superman killed his fellow Kryptonians and took a pointed dig at the Man of Steel in 2013 for further perpetuating the impression that the beauty of Superman and Superman 2 is the fact that Superman wasn't flying around killing villains. He was putting them in jail. There was an American way of law and order about it. That's what was wrong with the movies they did afterwards. They got darker and darker and darker. So there was actually, and I actually saw the scene with Lex Luthor. There is actually a scene that was shot that I saw earlier. I stumbled across this YouTube channel called Bullets and Blockbusters, where he talks about unrealized film projects. He talks about like Superman Lives with Nick Cage and Never Happened. He does it's a fun channel if you guys want to go check it out. But he actually showed a scene, and I know I've seen it before, I forget exactly where Superman actually takes Lex Luthor down and drops him back off in the quarry where the prisoners are breaking rocks, like the whole trope about what prisoners did back in movies in the 80s, 70s, and 80s, where he actually drops Lex Luthor back off and says, and very prophetically, actually, I'll see you in 20 years, Lex, and then flies off, which was kind of odd because it was 20 years later that we got Superman Returns. and with Brandon Ruth, so that was a little bit prophetic, but so there was actually stuff shot that showed that he did not kill these people. It's just that's the way it's portrayed in the in the final movie.
Those scenes, I mean, we have to go by, and I think most people go by this rule, because nowadays we have theatrical, unrated director's cuts, extended editions. Most people go by what's from the beginning of the film to the end. 30 years later, you can come out and say, oh, no, well, actually, you can do that with 1,000 different things. I mean, you could say, oh, well, in Batman Returns, Batman actually goes down into the sewer to get that clown guy. He totally didn't blow him up. Anything can be said. But what we see in camera on film, Superman may not have killed, well, he technically killed Zod. I mean, he threw him down the hole and broke his hand. The big guy, he did himself. The girl, she got hit by Lois and fell down. Gene Hackman, I still say, going by the normal rules, Superman murdered him. Just saying. I've never seen these shots, and I will go look for them when we're off of here. But
I'll send you the one that I watched from Bullets. I'll send you the one I watched from Bullets and Blockbusters earlier today. I'll check it out. I'll send you that. I'll send you that video. It's about 10 minutes long or so. I've been watching a little bit of that
That's
channel
all
over the last couple of days. There's some interesting videos on there.
Yeah,
Especially when you think about the road not traveled, the movies that didn't get made. That's what he focuses on.
I'm just saying,
There's a couple of videos
within the context of beginning to end, the Kryptonians did how whatever. But as far as Luthor, I still say he kills Luthor because we do not see him leave until the thing blows up. So,
Oh, you're talking about
sorry, Boy Scout.
the first thing I found here with Bullets and Blockbusters is what could have been Superman 5. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, because I see like him in like a cartoony bunch of guys in the prison stripes and they're all breaking rocks and there's Lex Luthor. Okay.
Well,
Cool.
in reality,
Hey,
the whole reason why
There's
Gene,
one on the Snyderverse. Text him out like that. Original plans for Snyderverse. That'll be an interesting video.
I love
right,
the Snyderverse.
I'm
I
in
mean,
it now.
realistically, the whole reason why Hackman didn't come back was because they dumped Richard Donner, and he was still standing with him. That's why they brought in the new guy to be the knockoff Lex Luthor, whatever his name was. But story-wise, we don't see Luthor again in the original 4 films. So, story-wise, it fits for me anyway.
Well, we technically speaking, the Kevin Spacey version of him is supposed to be that version, but
It's him.
Right.
It's not.
That also doesn't track because that version of Lois Lane remembers that Clark is still Superman. So, I mean, you're playing fast and loose with the rules.
I know what you're saying. I admit. Basically, what Superman Returns with Brandon Ruth was basically basically what they did with the recent Halloween movies. They just it was supposed to be Superman 3. They just disregarded the third and fourth movies and retconned it. So essentially after the events of Superman 2, Superman takes off, does whatever. So maybe this little tryst that we were talking about earlier in the Fortress of Solitude actually led to a birth of another half human, half Kryptonian, and that's where. And
technically, that child should not even exist because whenever he flies around the world backwards, it undoes everything. That's just, so it's.
It doesn't.
You want to talk about the
it undoes her being killed in that earthquake. It doesn't go back and undo everything.
So Superman's world-bending powers are the same as Doctor Strange's. He can just pick and choose whatever he wants, basically. That's what we're going with.
I mean, when you have a god, he can do whatever he wants.
When you get that power, you can kind of do whatever you want. Yeah, it makes very clear in the first Superman that he's only going back in time so long to save Lois. He's not going back in time to undo everything. He's just undoing that one particular event, which again, it's going to give him time travel and has an effect.
That's not how time travel works, but whatever.
Because it's not just Lois. He goes back to undo all the people that Zod killed and everything else. So if that's the rules, that means everything that happened within that time would also be undone as well. I don't know. We're asking some big questions with answers that we have no way of knowing.
Here's one of the reasons.
It's a fun conversation.
Here's one of the reasons why I'd say just turn your brain off and watch, because if you're a logical person, you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't really gel. But whatever. We live in a world where Vin Diesel has driven a car with his 8-year-old child in off a
They drove cars into space, man.
Yeah, they put Piero in space. So
and to go back to Jeremy's comment at the beginning of this, how he said he's one of the few people that likes the multiverse thing. Once you kick that door open, these questions start to get asked. You know what I'm saying? Therein lies the problem.
That's
it's just interesting.
Why I like it used sparingly, because you have to be very careful how you craft stories.
Yeah.
Because that's one of the reasons I don't like time travel. It's because
you should have limits.
Yeah, you never. There's no sure way of how it works that's logical that anybody really knows for sure.
Well,
so especially when it comes to things like the MCU, it's like, we can just go back in time, Iron Man and Captain America, these guys before that, and bring them back to our time.
Wait.
Like that kind of ruins the whole effect of their story arcs anyway. So
no, hold on. Before you start shitting on Marvel, I know it's just like a casual, like Tony Stark did some like, oh, I figured out time travel. I'm like, okay, right. I mean, like, hey, you're Tony Stark. I'll let you have it. Now remember, they did
figured out time travel in a cabin in the woods. Come on, dude, really?
They did put a limit on it though. There was like a risk reward of like, we only have so many of these particles that we can use to time travel. And of course there is a thing where like, oh yeah, this something messed up. And we're like, oh shit, it was a one-way trip here and back. And like, oh, now we got to figure out a plan B. So like, it wasn't just like, oh yeah, we can hop in a fucking DeLorean that Tony Stark made and just keep zipping around time and doing whatever. It was like, no, there was a there was a plot device that's like, oh, we have a limited amount that we can do this with. It wasn't just like, oh, now we have it, now we can do that. Just,
See,
you know, at the snap of a finger.
For all of the crap series that Marvel has developed, why have they not developed one with Chris Evans going back in time and showing him putting back all of this stuff? That's what I want to see. I don't need all of these other things. You know what I mean?
Marvel's misstepped a few places. Why didn't they have Louise before Endgame kind of breaking down all the stuff that was going on? A quick 5-minute scene
if Marvel
all that would have been golden.
If Marvel would just bring Chris Evans back, we don't need him in another movie. He can just do a 8-episode whatever. And I mean, I'm a self-professed Marvel hater. I've made no bones about it. If they brought Evans back from the minute he blips the little helmet on and goes back in time, I mean, he has to go back and give Jane Foster that poison in the one Thor movie. Like, these are things I need to see. These are questions because you kicked the door open, and now these questions exist. And I understand, turn your brain off, blah, blah, blah. Well, but it's a natural question to ask.
And we're assuming that it did go right. I mean, we don't know. We didn't see it. We just all of a sudden saw him blip back, and then all of a sudden he was on the park bench, and he lived his whole life, and that was kind of the end. I'm like, well, I guess
this is why. And this is why a multiverse in the comic book works, because hey, by issue 5, if it's not going well, we're going back to issue 0. The world's been rebooted, but doing it with real people in a live world format, it gets funky till you have to have a TVA pruning timelines, and it just makes no sense after that. Then you have to bring in Deadpool to clean up your universe. Here's just where we are. So, figure it out.
There's a good hearty debate on whether Batman or Superman should kill people. I say let them kill. Look, I don't think you have to be
like I said. One of the greatest things was the Frank Miller. I'm like, that shit got dark. It got gritty. He was just killing people. He didn't give a shit. And it was fun. Like, you think this guy that's like your moral compass of like your superhero, and he's just gone down a rabbit hole of fuck it, I'm killing everybody, and I don't care who I have to do to get what I need to get done. So to see him,
whether it's Superman or Batman, whether it's Zod or the Joker, if you know that, hey, I'm going to send Zod back to the Phantom Zone, knowing somehow he's going to find a way out and go kill 1 million more people. If you don't stop him before that, having the power, you now become liable, in my opinion. Same argument for Batman and Joker. If you know he's going to escape Arkham and blow up the Narrows or whatever, and you don't do something about it, you're just doing it so you have something to pad your own ego later on.
It's just job security. He knows Joker's going to break out, and we're going to go get him again. He's rich, though. He doesn't give a shit. He does this for kicks. Who cares?
Like, stay in here for about a year, then break out. I want a vacation. I'm going to go to France for a little while.
That's why
the Joker under the table. That's how he gets all his
stuff. Me and Selena Kyle are headed to France for a while, so just chill out here in Arkham. We'll see you in 6 months.
That's why Jason Todd, Red Hood, is my favorite DC character, because he has the skills and training of Batman, but he has the balls and the backbone to finish the job. He realizes, hey, go watch the Batman animated Under the Red Hood. The last scene where Jason Todd, Batman, and Joker are in that apartment, and he throws Batman the gun. He said, I'm going to kill him because you wouldn't. Therein lies, how many lives does he have to take before you take his? It's asking the ultimate question. Batman not doing it shows a cowardice on him, knowing that somebody's mom or dad or baby died because you don't have the balls to do it. But, what do you make out of it?
I say let him kill people.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
It's Gotham. No one will notice.
I like the fact that he killed Zod, and for no other reason. It's like it makes Superman in the DCU a little more unpredictable, because then you're constantly asking yourself, well, is he going to?
He's going to do that.
Because in Man of Steel, it's like he had to work up to that point, and he really had to have no other choice than to snap Zod's neck or watch these people be killed terribly.
Oh, yeah.
So I would love to have kind of explored that a little more, like maybe a little bit of guilt on his part of having to do that. Batman is different because, for one, Batman has killed plenty of times before we got to Ben Affleck's version of Batman. So the whole Batman doesn't kill, the fuck he doesn't. I mean, come on. It's like it's not like there's no way you could have made it work where Ben Affleck's walking around like some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. You never would have pulled that shit off. I mean, you never let
It's
him
those
kill.
ducks and nuts, man. It's those
That's
ducks and
my
nuts.
favorite
Get
line.
out of the way.
Don't do
There have been
that.
plenty of versions of
Wow.
Batman where he's whacked people down. So I just let him kill. But
Yeah.
I mean, there was as I recall, there was a comic book storyline in Batman where he realizes that killing people is taking an effect on him, and he decides to swear off of killing people or something like that, or goes back to non-kill policy or whatever. But I mean, for the most part, let Batman kill. He's not Superman. He doesn't have that dichotomy. He's perfectly positioned to do what's got to be done.
It's even worse on a Superman scale, though. Look at somebody like Brainiac. Okay, let's say Brainiac is going through the galaxy, and he's going through and he's shrinking cities like the lost city of Kandor, and he's bottling them in his ship, and then he's taking the city, gaining all of their knowledge, and he's blowing up the planet. Superman shouldn't kill him and save the entire galaxy by destroying a robot alien thingy, all because truth, justice, and the American way. That's a joke. Superheroes should kill. It's a joke. It's a.
But that is a slippery slope, though. You can't kill every damn person that like steals somebody's purse. Like,
well,
Jesus
no,
Christ.
I'm not saying they become Punisher and they just wipe out everybody, but they should be able to if the situation calls for it. If they don't have it, what does Joker say in Dark Knight? Or what does Batman say to Joker? I only have one rule. And Joker says, tonight you'll have to break that rule.
You're going to have to break your rule. Yeah.
Joker was a better Batman in Dark Knight than Batman was. He stopped the crime in Gotham. He took it all over because he had the balls to do it. Just saying.
I mean, I guess. When you monopolize the whole crime in Gotham, I guess maybe.
When you look it all over, crime was stopped. Everything was up. Was there a madman in charge of it? Yes. There's no argument there. Joker was the better Batman than Batman.
The inmate was, in fact, running the asylum.
Batman, in his own egotistical way, I have one rule. Well, you're not suited for the job if that one rule won't let you do the job that you need to do and stop the guy that's going to blow up the children's hospital or poison the water or whatever it is. Then you're being selfish.
But then you can't keep breaking out and keep having more adventures. I think you and I are destined to do this forever.
That's why you have a rogues gallery, because after the fourth or fifth time Joker gets out, maybe somebody's like, why the hell does this guy keep getting out? It's like,
like I said, I think Bruce Wayne is slipping some money under the table to Arkham, like, okay, but just let this guy have his fun for a little bit.
All right. This week, give me Two-Face this week. Next week, give me Killer Croc. He's just running down the list.
Yeah. Just throw in the continuity, just for the hell of it.
Don't off him like I had to do that Epstein guy. Just let him out every 6 months.
The Joker did not
Epstein himself. Joker, whatever. Yeah, the Joker, whatever. Right? I need to throw hands on that guy every now and again. Don't Epstein him. But I don't know. That's where we'll start to wrap things up. I don't know. I'll go to you first, Jeremy. Give me your final thoughts on Superman 2.
Well, now that we've brought all kinds of old-timey and modern-day morals into this. Jesus. I don't know. You know what? I still agree. If you want to double feature these movies, I mean, yeah, like the first movie, it's great. And then this is also a good follow-up as a sequel. Like I said, it expands more. It's not just, Smallville Farm to Metropolis. And like, well, now it's Metropolis to like, the world. You know what I mean? So you got bigger scope of what's going on. You got these Kryptonians that you saw in the first movie. There is a payoff because now they're coming back to just wreak havoc because they can. And yeah, it's oh god, that stuff's coming back to haunt me. It's a good movie, and yeah, you start to. I think 3 wasn't bad, but I mean, yeah, you get to 4 and you're kind of like, okay, we're done now. All right. So
the quest to ruin a franchise.
Yeah, the quest for peace was, I don't know what that was, but I think I wanted to say, I think I asked Frank this last time we were before we were gonna do this. I'm not sure if this was maybe one of the first instances of because at the end of the movie it was just like, oh yeah, coming soon, Superman 3. I'm like, oh, we don't have that's like the whole, oh, Captain America will return, Iron Man will be back. I'm like, did we have something like that? Was this maybe one of the first instances, even maybe just in a superhero film, where that was kind of alluded to that, hey, we're going to have a 3. And it's like, ooh, okay, that's fun.
I can't remember even like superhero movies in the 90s even doing that. I think you're right.
I'm not sure. I'm like, that might be one of the early instances of that, which was kind of cool.
Yeah.
So,
well, I mean, around a few years later, they would do it in Back to the Future.
That's true. But they did, well, I guess, like you said, they filmed those. They did film those 2 right back to back. So,
they filmed 2 and 3 back to back.
2 and 3. They also did that with The Matrix. They did 2 and 3 together.
Yeah.
Well, shit, they filmed all 3 Lord of the Rings, just boom, 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 right after another. So, I mean, to be fair. But I'm saying superhero.
Still the greatest trilogy to date.
Oh, yeah. Dude,
Stuart McQuaid said they always did it for the James Bond movies.
Oh.
I don't know.
That's why I threw in the superhero movie. I'm like, I'm
not a James Bond guy. I don't know those. I haven't seen. I don't think. Maybe just the Pierce Brosnan ones. I haven't seen many.
Well, also, I mean, because wasn't tying it into Brando. I'm like, wasn't Godfather 2 like the first time that had been done? Like, where it's a 2, it's a sequel or something. Like they actually labeled it with like a Roman numeral as this is part 2. I swear it was Godfather 2. They said like that's one of the first
I'm not sure. What year was Godfather 2?
79?
The 74 was the first one, right? Oh wait, hold on. I might be dropping the ball. Hold on. No, wait. Was it 71? Maybe you're right.
Well, so okay, you're not counting like. Well, hang on. Are you counting like Frankenstein and like Bride of Frankenstein, or are you counting just the number 2 after a film?
I think it was like that
came out in 72.
72. You're right. I mean like that it was a 2, not that sequels didn't exist, but I mean like I think the first time they put like a 2 onto something was I swear it was Godfather. I don't remember.
Part 2 came out in 74.
74.
And part 3 came out in 1990.
Like 1990. Yeah, it was ridiculous.
Yeah, and nobody really likes Godfather 3. I mean, it's
well, and see, they didn't number the Star. Well, technically, when Star Wars, let's see, did they have the episode? They didn't have the episode numbers on them when they first came out, right? Or did they say episode 4?
No, it was just called Star Wars. And then they made
Star Wars.
And then it was Empire.
It was Empire. I think then maybe that became 5, which by proxy makes that 4.
So episodes. Well, I'm saying the episode and then following number didn't come in until the prequels. Then
I think that was later because it was just called Star Wars: Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. I don't.
Okay. I say that this is. I'm not sure.
Oh shit! I think my mouse died.
But
that sucks. Still got the touchpad. It's okay. It's okay. Ooh, James Cameron Spider-Man. That would have been dumb. Anyway, great movie, great sequel. Next. Sorry that we went off on that tangent. Cora's not here.
Tex, how about you give me some of your final thoughts on Superman 2?
Cora's not here, so we have to honor her with many squirrel moments, which we have. But hey, squirrel moments lead to great conversation. That's all I'll say. But it's a fun one to watch. It's a, of course, if you want a more serious cut, watch The Donner. If you want the campy, fun, zany, go watch the Lester cut, the theatrical run of it. Not the best original Superman film, but definitely the most memorable, like I said earlier. And this film will forever have its place in the legacy of superhero media because it's a standard bearer. I mean, no matter what you think of it.
Yeah, for me, like I said, this is one of the standard bearers for all comic book films. I mean, things that were considered tropes are now considered what you must do in order to produce a quality comic book based movie or product of any kind. So, is this one better than the first one? God, in some ways,
no. Yeah.
Like I said, it's really hard for me to judge it like that because I think this was different in what you could do with it. I like the fact that you explored a lot more of the dichotomy between the superhero and the alter ego. I like that you made him make that choice because I can't think of another time where a superhero has had to make the choice between being a superhero or being the regular person. I mean, Batman a couple of times has kind of stepped away. Bruce Wayne has stepped away from being Batman a couple of times, but he's always drawn back. So I can't think of any time. I mean,
didn't Tobey Maguire Spider-Man in 2, when he started losing his powers, he was kind of just like, I guess I'll be Peter Parker again, until the plot needed it too.
It was,
like, okay.
yeah.
Well, it was no. It
was in Spider-Man 2 where he puts the costume in trash.
Well,
yeah.
you're talking about. Well, no, that was because of something that happened. It wasn't. It was kind of sudden. It was a emotional trauma that caused that. Not I am a full superhero. I'm still capable of doing superhero stuff, but I'm going to walk away because of this other reason. You know what I mean? It's not because he started to lose his powers or whatever. So Tobey Maguire wasn't trying to get rid of his powers. He was just going along as Spider-Man.
I guess.
Until he started to have some performance anxiety or whatever the hell was wrong with him. So
he was getting web blocked.
Yeah, he was getting web blocked. But his Spidey sense stopped tingling.
His Peter Tingle stopped.
His Peter Tingle stopped. No blue pills for the Peter Tingle.
Oh,
but yeah, I mean, I like that it explored a little bit of that and humanized him just enough to where you could kind of relate to his struggle a bit differently than you would have otherwise. Again, cast fantastic. You know, loaded with a bunch of all-stars. Look who managed to pop.
There's Casey.
There he is. Yeah. He's gonna cut your invite. I sent it to you 2 hours ago, and you weren't here. And now we're wrapping up, so you're out of luck now, Casey. Sorry. But
he got the Thurman tingles. That's what happens.
He got the Thurman tingles.
Casey, no. Anytime you get to a show and the plug segment at the end shows up,
that's real funny.
His ears start wiggling and buzzing. He's like, "Oh, I got to get there quick. I got to get here." I've seen it 100 times. Casey knows when that stuff is happening. He's trained himself. He's very smart. So, yeah.
Well.
But yeah, I think this is a fantastic movie. I think it's really hard for me to say it's better than the first. I think it's got some clear advantages, but I just got to say they're kind of on par. And I try not to use I try not to be such a dummy I try not to avoid the comparison, but at the same time, I have a tough time. There's different things this movie did that were good that the first movie missed, and vice versa for the first movie. So I don't really know, but I think it's a better villain overall. I think Zod's a much better match for Superman. Look, we're not for that lump of kryptonite. I mean, let's face it, he would have made short work of Lex Luthor. So I mean, having these three people there that were equally matched to him gave him a much harder time rather than just like slapping Lex Luthor around, dropping him in prison, and off he goes for true justice the American way. I don't like it when villains are underpowered. I kind of look at the movies and I'm like, really? It's like, why am I watching this again?
Lex Luthor, yeah.
Yeah, so, but better villains, I think, overall. You still had the great acting ability of Gene Hackman there to kind of accentuate things. But yeah, it's a fantastic movie and one of the standard bearers for all comic book films, in my opinion. And everything looks back at this movie and tries to find what it did right and tries to emulate it. The original Tim Burton's Batman, things like that. They go to these and they're like, what made this genre great from where it really got good with the first Superman, this movie, then eventually Tim Burton's films. What made those movies great that we're going to try to make franchises out of? And I think they really do use these movies as blueprints. Marvel did. I think DC did in some ways. It's a fantastic movie. I love it. I think it's fantastic. I think it's great. You guys should definitely go watch it. It's available on Max if you guys have a subscription to HBO Max. You can watch it there. It's just Max now for some reason. But thanks to my amazing co-host for coming out here and being awesome as always. Starting with my hetero life mate Jeremy. Where can the folks find you, my friend?
Well, not preempt. Jumping the gun on the music. Jeez.
I forgot it was still playing.
Yeah, now Frank's gonna have that Superman look on his face, like, oh crap, it was too soon.
You know what I'll do? I'm gonna take this picture. I'm gonna put Casey's face on Reeve's.
Don't let him think for a second that he could have pulled Margot Kidder.
That's what I'm saying. I gotta think of someone's face to put over Margot Kidder. It's probably gonna be the Rose Gaming, something like that.
No.
So
put Casey's face on Margot and Rose on Superman, but just to piss him off even more.
I don't want. Yeah, I'm gonna give Casey too much of an ego that he's apparently Superman.
Oh, hey, hang on.
We'll get his tights.
Save this for next time, Frank. But Alex from Alex and the Garbage Man, he made he sent me a thing with the Thurman is Raw that I posted in the DM group. You might want to use for further You might want to scroll up a little bit and find it's very interesting.
I will have to. I'm going to get to work in the Terminus roster. I've been very busy with work and life the last couple of weeks, but I will figure out the Terminus roster. It will be out there eventually. We'll make it happen. And if not, then I've also got another thing I can put Casey's face on.
We got potential.
So Casey on. We're going to put Casey on Margot Kidder's face.
He hates us.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to put Casey on Margot Kidder's face and leave Christopher Reeve there.
Yeah, you know what?
Hey.
And then I'll put a little speech bubble that says, "What did I do?"
Casey should be so lucky to be in the arms of Christopher Reeve. He would love that. I have a feeling. No, that's up to him.
What happens when you get drunk at a truck stop?
What happens in Krypton stays on Krypton. That's the rules, guys. So
anyway,
goodness gracious. But good shit. Thanks to my amazing co-host and to Jeremy. Were you done with your outro before I upset you?
I don't. No, I don't. I don't think I even got to start. So yeah, no, I'm. Well, he just preemptively got his music all up in my business. It's all good. No, I'm here Thursday and Tuesday, same bat time, same bat channel, and like I said, something else we were going to do. I think we'll put it in the link into the chat here, in this outro, that we're gonna do an after thing, just streaming some Fortnite, just hanging around, just dicking around, all that jazz. That should be on 10 Septem's Twitch. So, like I said, it's right there. She just posted it. So, if you want to come, just hang out with us after the show. We're just gonna keep losing at Fortnite because people definitely don't cheat at the game, but whatever. It's all good fun. So. That's where we're at. And otherwise,
just don't report people like Casey does and be a total nerd.
Well, I report them when it's a little too unbelievable to think that something was a little off. But anyway, you see, well, you can't see it now, but my name's right there. You figure it out. It's not the Roman numerals though. I did that for the Superman thing. Just whatever, you know what I mean. Figure it out.
Hell yeah.
And to the Lone Star State, I'm in text. Where can the folks at home find you, my friend?
Oh, here on Tuesdays and Thursdays, providing work doesn't keep me longer than I want them to. But after the day I've had, I had a Patrick Bateman moment today where I was like, you know what? I could just snap and end all of you. So in honor of that, and I'm doing the 2000s horror, I'm going to watch American Psycho tonight. So that's going to be my recommendation. So, I'm going to go return some videotapes, if you know what I'm saying. So go check it out. I don't know where you can find it, but hey, the internet is your friend. It's up to you. So
text walking to work with the headphones of listening to Walking on Sunshine. Just a look on his face too.
Dude, I'm telling you, there was one guy I dealt with today. I'm like looking for a clear raincoat. I'm like, you're lucky you're not all. That's all I got to say. So it was whatever.
Who reads the newspaper in the year 2024? Why do you wait a minute.
I started hearing "Hit to Be Squared" playing in my brain, and I knew I was going down a bad way. I was like, nope, I need to get out of here before this goes south. So.
Put on some Robert Palmer. I'm just gonna melt away.
Okay, everybody, go check out the lesser channel of Casey Raw's Gaming and Wrestling Talk.
Wait. Are you sure that's what he meant? Because out of context, he says he needs his plug. I mean, he did just say he was going to be in Superman's arms. I don't know.
Six in the say.
There was 3 letters before plug. It could be butt plug. I don't know. But
come on, you got to be doing that, Casey. As the Joker said, a very poor choice of words.
As for me, you're going to find me back here on Tuesday. We're going to be breaking down Dune Part 2. I'm going to go see it this weekend. I've heard nothing but good stuff about Dune Part 2.
I am so ready.
So many people have said that movie is just off the chain. I'm going to try to rewatch 1 before I go see it. Part 1.
I need to do that.
One thing, if I would have thought about it ahead of time, I would have tried to have done the original Dune, and then done another little breakdown of Part 1, then done Part 2. Because the original Dune is actually very good as well. It's from around the same time as this, 1980, 81. But I will not have time to watch all 3 of them between now and Tuesday. No. So on Tuesday, we will be here giving you our spoiler review of Dune Part 2. I have heard it's off the chain good. The fight scenes are apparently incredible. The story is deep.
I
and
need to
rich.
go watch the first one. I don't even know what it's
I need
about.
to rewatch one. Yeah.
The world building is fantastic. Denis Villeneuve apparently has spun gold with this film. So I've been hearing a lot of good things about it. So I'm really eager to see it this weekend. Looking forward to it.
Do we have to get the popcorn bucket that looks like a sex toy?
No.
I am 100% buying the fleshlight looking popcorn bucket. I just do not. It's seriously, it's one of those things. It's one of those things where it's like it's so ridiculous that I have to have it, and it's gonna be somewhere right in there. I might put it in front of the. I move. I don't know if you guys noticed. I moved my my lamp, my
Boondock Saints
lamp back there, so it can be in the shot now. I have a new little desk lamp here that I use, so I wanted to keep it in the shot, even though I wasn't using it very much. But it's gonna have to be somewhere. I want to put some shelving up there. The crazy giant earthworm fleshlight popcorn bucket is going to be up there somewhere.
As long as there's no stains on it, Frank.
At least
just,
for the
just wash it. That's all we're asking for.
Yeah, at least
he's gonna have that bucket, then like a precariously big jar of just like fucking like lotion right there, just Jergens right next.
Well, I've got my Aunt Jemima right there. So
oh god damn it.
Maybe I'll take.
I swear to God, when I go see Dune 2, if I see one guy carrying his fleshlight popcorn bucket to the bathroom, I'm leaving. I'm telling you right now. I'm
going to point at him.
calling security.
I'm going to follow him and point at him and laugh and be like, "I'm just
yes,
taking home from You're taking to the bathroom, son. You have problems.
You're putting way too much butter on that popcorn. You're putting way too much butter on that popcorn, pal. What are you really doing?"
I guarantee you when I get there, they're probably going to be sold out. Just the humor of those things alone is probably going to make their impression.
Every time I've tried to get something special from a movie, they're always sold out at the theater. I had to go like 2 weeks.
I had to get I had to get the one from Scream 6, the Ghostface one, off the internet. I couldn't get it in person.
That's usually how I'd have to do it is off the internet. But
I am totally ready to go get my fleshlight.
Frank's buy the fleshlight, everybody.
I am
Hashtag Frank's fleshlight. Get that going and put harsh truth after it.
I am so putting up a short of me just like eating popcorn out of the fleshlight bucket.
Like,
in the theater.
It's like, think about it.
In the theater.
Dripping butter from it, the whole thing. It'll be great.
It's going to be phenomenal. It's going to be great. But thanks to all of you for coming to hang out with us. We very much appreciate it. We will see you guys on Tuesday as we go to break down Dune Part 2. Very excited for this.
Dune 2.
And then we're going to get back into, and then after that's going to be a real fun horror movie that I know Tex has been chomping at the bit to get at for a long time. I'm looking forward to that one as well. But we will this time until then.
Neil,
get to join us on stream. No, Frank's gonna, instead of the alien dripping the KY jelly, he's gonna have this Doom bucket dripping like butter off of like the little teeth and shit.
Frank's gonna be smoking a vape, walking out of the bathroom in the movie theater. We're all gonna know what he was doing.
He's gonna have that Superman face, man.
I'm gonna take a picture of myself with it in my lap and just a big shit-eating grin.
Oh, you need to recreate the picture.
Kind of like this. Kind of like this.
It's just Frank cradling his popcorn bucket.